Hey guys, welcome to part 9 of What If Naruto Was Adopted by Hyuga Clan. If you enjoy the video then like, share and subscribe and also comment your thoughts as it inspires me to make more such videos, and remember to check out my playlist section for other interesting stories. So let's get started. Chapter 48. Defeat. He had to hurry fast. He went so fast, the door was almost unhinged when he rushed inside. Ino. Where are you? Dad. Ino. What was that message? What was so urgent? The still sweating Inoichi panted. Late in the evening, his daughter had sent the distress signal unique to their clan, one which Inoichi had taught her to use in emergencies. Rushing out from the kitchen of the Haruno household where she stayed during her fight with her parents, Ino jumped at her father. While he was relieved to see her unharmed, he was disturbed to see her panic like this. He's dead, she cried. He's dead. We found him, Daddy. Who? Kakashi-san. Sakura went completely catatonic. She found her dad after he. I didn't know what to do, I didn't know. With a second loud bang, the door crashed open, revealing a ragged-looking Yamanaka Yuriko, who by the looks of it, was on the verge of tears as well. Ino. Thank God, you are all right, she squeaked. Mom, Ino didn't even get a chance to say anything before her mother embraced her in a strong, although somewhat shaky, embrace. Shaky, because the woman was crying, much to Ino's surprise. Ino could barely remember the last time she had seen her mother cry. I was so scared that, I didn't want our last words to be, not that stupid fight. I'm sorry Ino, so sorry, I shouldn't have been so stubborn, Yuriko cried. I thought I lost you. Ino, where did you find Kakashi-san, and where is Sakura? Inoichi knew that, however touching the moment was, there were other priorities at this time. The stairs, Ino sniffed. He smells like alcohol. We had a party tonight. Before we left he was already drunk. I think he fell down the stairs. And Sakura. Kitchen. She won't say a thing though. I didn't know what to do. I felt so alone. I was shocked. I didn't know what to do, Ino whimpered. Honey, you take our daughter to the kitchen and look after Sakura, okay? I will make sure the authorities are notified. Dad, his neck, Ino hesitated. Could you? It is so shocking. I'll grant him some dignity, Inoichi promised. It was done. Danzo-sama, the root operative, bowed in front of his leader. Good, Danzo sighed. I will pay the girl a visit soon. She would be a very valuable asset. If I may, Danzo-sama, what makes her so valuable? Yamanaka Fu felt the faintest traces of curiosity. After all, he was one of the highest-ranking operatives within Root, granted a greater degree of independence compared to most lower-ranking operatives. The girl does not seem to have any remarkable powers or bloodline limits, and apart from her advanced chakra control, she hardly has any redeemable qualities as a shinobi. My old friend would start talking about his will of fire. Now, Danzo narrowed his one visible eye at the thought of Hiruzen's foolish philosophies. But we are better than that. We are the roots upholding the mighty tree. Haruno Sakura might not be a remarkable shinobi, but she is close to several who are remarkable. The Uchiha and the Jinchuriki. Uzumaki Naruto showed his promise, Danzo agreed. It is time to determine whether we should use him, or dispose of him. But from what we learned through Hyuga Hazashi before you removed him, the Uzumaki cannot be approached easily. Placing an operative in his vicinity would be exceedingly difficult. Sai reported that the Uzumaki was relatively close to the Haruno girl, considering how they are both former classmates and former teammates. She would make the perfect spy. Fu understood Danzo's plans. After I convince myself of her unshakable loyalty, Danzo showed a faint smile on his old face. Yes, the eye of Uchiha Shisui was a priceless asset to his plans. First it ensured him of Hazashi's loyalty, setting the plans in motion to eventually ensure Root of that clan's support, and now it would give him the key to getting his hands on the most powerful asset in Konohagakure. Regardless of the plans Hiruzen and his students might have, Danzo knew full well that the power of the Kyuubi was pivotal in the political balance. However, with so many eyes on the boy, gaining control over him would require a well-worked-out plan, which in turn required getting detailed information on the child. Perhaps I should manipulate him into killing that Uchiha. It would undermine the brat's position, while removing the lingering threat of that clan at the same time. Removing Sasuke would eliminate Itachi from my plans as well, and leave me with access to the last Sharingans, Danzo mused. But regardless of the Sharingan I possess, every plan in the end revolves around the Jinchuriki. His growth was above expectations, and his troublesome talent for recognizing my operatives only led me to underestimating the child, but his victory over the Ikibi showed enough. It is too bad Hizashi failed to provide me with better information, or I might have allowed him to live. After all, Hiyashi was still ignorant to who used his brother. Even that troublesome wife of his only seems to suspect people of her own clan. Danzo grimaced a little after he sent the Yamanaka away. First it was Hiruzen's vigilance that kept the Kyuubi from his grasp, and then it was Hyuga Hiyashi who stood in his way. Now the boy was at an age where he would stand on his own 2 feet. His power had already grown into the threat he posed today. Danzo elected to keep biding his time until he could determine if he could direct that threat or not. Hyuga Hideo better decide soon on whose side he wants to be on. His patience has already removed my chance of succeeding Hiruzen. But while that isn't a problem, I cannot afford to wait when it comes to this Jinchuriki. Last chance, Uchiha, Naruto growled. Leave. Sasuke only smirked in response, his red Sharingan looking right into Naruto's bestial crimson eyes. I don't have any intentions of leaving. Then you will die, the Uzumaki hissed. Why are you so scared to face me? Sasuke taunted. Are you afraid you would lose in a real fight? You can't expect to win every battle by preparing the right seals. Not every battle is in a controlled environment like the exams. Like I give a shit about that. Then, what are you waiting for? Naruto stared angrily at the Uchiha. Stop messing with my mind, Kyuubi. He focused on his other nuisance. He attacks you, so you have every right to defend yourself. And it so happens that I don't mind helping you to kill this miscreant bloodline, the Kyuubi grumbled a reply inside Naruto's head. If I listen to you, this ends up in a bloodbath. I can't kill Sasuke. His bloodline is important to Konoha. If we kill him, it will only worsen our position. Our position. Since when do I care? I don't give a damn about your accursed village, the demon chuckled. Just murder him. It is the right thing to do. His bloodline should have been ended long ago. And you want to kill him too. You can feel that, can't you? His darkness is growing. Eliminate him. Now. No. Naruto grimaced. Shut up. If I listen to you it only ends up getting worse. Ever since the fight against Gaara and the Ikibi, you're becoming an increasingly big pain in the ass. He said aloud. Frowning, as he wasn't privy to the discussion with the Biju, Sasuke wondered what Naruto was doing. Seems like he finally lost it, he smirked. Kaden. Hosenka no Jutsu. Sasuke created a volley of small fireballs, which now flew towards Naruto following various trajectories. Naruto grunted. Though he did not fear fire, he dodged the attacks. He didn't want anything to happen with his new flak jacket. Well, it felt sturdy enough, but to damage it the same day he got it was, to Naruto, an insulting idea. Dodging, Naruto gathered chakra for a counterattack. But his futon, Rinkuden, failed spectacularly. It lacked power. It lacked control. Stop messing up my control, Kyuubi. And with his Sharingan active, dodging the weak attack was child's play for Sasuke, who also predicted where Naruto was going. Kunai flew, forcing Naruto to dodge yet again. Damn it, I forgot how fast the bastard is, Naruto grimaced. He has the momentum, so trying to use Fuinjutsu against him will be pointless. I don't have the time to prepare my seals. Not while the Kyuubi messes my chakra up like this. And to top it off I can't even create shadow clones that are capable of fighting an opponent like Sasuke, not with those restricting seals in place. Deploying clones now would only be a waste of what little chakra I have. Damn it. If only Ero Sennin and Ba-chan hadn't limited my chakra usage, but they had to, in order to keep the demon at bay. Naruto grimaced. And even without this limitation, Sasuke is no pushover. He was always better at taijutsu. His skills with kunai and shuriken are far beyond what I will ever achieve, and his ninjutsu, with my botched control right now, he is probably stronger than me. And if he gets an opening for that lightning attack which he used against Haku during the exams, I'd be screwed as well. Damn it, at this rate I have no choice but to accept the demon's help. Again. And what will be the price this time? Hearing the fox's laughter in his ears only enraged Naruto further. Sasuke, stop this now, Naruto urged. Stop it. If this goes on, it'll end up badly. But Sasuke did not listen. Shut up and fight me. Stop joking around. Well then, now that I am thinking about it. Naruto mused, thinking back at what had transpired in the Land of Waves. We still have a score to settle, don't we? Don't get too full of yourself, Sasuke snarled, not wanting to be reminded of that. I have changed since that day. I can see that. When did become so weak that you started tapping into that cursed seal of yours, Sasuke? Naruto just stood still, staring at Sasuke. Didn't Ji-san or that sloth Kakashi warn you how dangerous the thing is? What do you know about me? Nothing. I need to kill someone, and I will do it, no matter what price I need to pay. I know it was your brother who wiped out your clan. But what good will this do? Naruto gestured to himself and their surroundings. Kaden. Hosen. With a hard smack, Naruto crashed into Sasuke. His fist plunged into Sasuke's stomach, knocking the air, and almost his food along with it, out of him. Naruto had tried so hard. But the rage which had been boiling over now came to the surface. Everything that had happened lately, his father, Haruki's demise. All the misery that had accumulated in him now reached new heights. Naruto didn't care any longer. Exactly as the Kyuubi's whispers suggested. A faint shroud of chakra, almost like an orange haze, started to bubble around him, and the restraining seals began to crumble. For the first time today, Sasuke started to wonder if his decision to confront Naruto had been the right one. What he saw wasn't human. What is his secret? If I could copy this. Kiba. Karen. Hinata rushed in, even forgetting the proper usage of suffixes for a moment. Not caring for what they were doing either. Or at least, what Karen tried to do. Hinata. Kiba frowned. He was secretly glad that Hinata barged in like this, as Karen had shuffled closer and closer towards him, although she didn't seem to know how to close that final foot between them. And Kiba, despite being the self-appointed alpha male, didn't really know how to act either. In spite of his big mouth, this was still a bit too scary for him. This awkwardness was what slowed down his thinking. But Karen was a bit quicker on the uptake. Hinata didn't act like this without a very serious reason. Seeing the distraught expression on the Hyuga's face, Karen immediately extended her senses. Ni-san is under attack. The censor gasped. Sasuke-san. He challenged Naruto-kun, Hinata panted, and Naruto seems to struggle. What? Kiba frowned. How the hell can he have troubles with Sasuke? I mean, he's good, but Naruto should be a lot stronger. He has the Kyuubi crammed within him. His chakra was mostly sealed after what happened with the assassination attempt. Hinata reminded the Inuzuka of the seals Jiraiya and Tsunade left in order to suppress the Kyuubi's influence. Naruto-kun is weakened, but that was not what I meant. He is struggling to keep control. I'm scared that that Naruto-kun might lose control again. The Kyuubi's chakra has permeated everywhere in Naruto's body. What should we do? Karen panicked. Karen, you go and drag Anko down here. Kiba realized that someone had to take charge of the situation, and the panicked Hyuga wasn't capable of it, nor was Karen. Hinata, you get Gaara, Temari, and Kankuro, and hurry up. Yes, Hinata nodded. I'll go and see what I can do to prevent this shit from escalating ever further. I must try to hold back, Naruto thought feverishly while he dodged another one of Sasuke's rigged shuriken. Neji changed. Not matter how much I think he deserved death, Hinata was right. Neji really seems honest in how he changed. He's still a prick, but at least he's not intending to hurt Hinata. Who are you kidding, brat? The Kyuubi grumbled within him. Well, this whole thing would be easier if you stopped messing up my chakra control. That is not what I meant. Do you think this Uchiha would change? What do you know about the Sharingan? Not much. I can promise you that if they have a grudge against someone, one as serious as this brat has against his brother, then you won't just simply change him for the better. Only his Sharingan will evolve into something worse, and that brat's darkness will grow with it. The Kyuubi sounded unusually serious. Eliminate him now, before you allow another Madara to rise. Madara, the human I hated above all others. But it doesn't matter anymore, he is dead. I know you don't want my help, but in this situation, this brat could become just like him, so let me propose you a deal. Sasuke snarled as Naruto evaded him again. Even with his Sharingan predicting Naruto's movements, the Uzumaki proved himself to be extremely slippery. Training taijutsu with Guy and Lee, or the Hyuga had certainly helped Naruto a lot in this respect. It seems as if his cursed seal is only further fueling his hatred, Naruto realized. And the worst thing is that I can understand the hatred he feels. How I wish to get my hands on the piece of trash that killed Haruki, but Hinata showed me that it takes strength to overcome that hatred. Ironic, how the one shunned as a failure is actually stronger than the one who is always praised to be the genius. Should I follow her, or accept the demon's offer? The demon's whispers had grown so strong, but all Naruto saw right now were Hinata's eyes, shining with her faith in him, no matter how misplaced it might have been. What? Sasuke snapped, seeing Naruto's smile. You are weak, you know that. Naruto chuckled. Hinata-sama showed me what true strength is. I realized my own ignorance and weakness then, but it seems you are even weaker. You think that stuttering idiot is stronger than both of us. Sasuke was actually baffled for a moment, his surprise overtaking his anger, if only for an instant. Don't you dare call her an idiot, Naruto gritted his teeth. Sure, he still tried to suppress his rage as best he could, but his patience was extremely limited. Or else what? You're finally going to stop evading me? Sasuke scoffed. His Sharingan widened when he saw the seals that were littered over Naruto's body crack even further. If the previous time boosted his strength and speed significantly, then this was even worse. Far worse. What is it? His eyes are like that of a beast. And his power, his chakra keeps increasing. Not even Orochimaru had chakra like this. I told you to leave, Naruto growled. I gave you your chance, several chances, even no one can blame me now. What are you? I can't avoid this. Right now, he is stronger than I am on my own. Have it your way, Kyuubi, but don't you dare to break your word. Naruto resigned himself to what was going to happen. Did you ever wonder what drove Gaara to madness? What does Gaara have to do with this? Sasuke narrowed his eyes as he looked suspiciously at the Uzumaki. He is my brother, Naruto chuckled. However, this voice wasn't really human any longer. It was deeper, savage, demonic. My pathetically weak and insane little brother, the one you humans call the Ikibi, drove that kid mad. Crimson chakra erupted from Naruto, and for an instant, Sasuke saw it. He took a step back out of pure shock. He saw it. In a fraction of a second, he saw an enormous silhouette. It was a huge kitsune, a vague form made out of chakra. It was a giant demon with 9 tails waving behind it, with menacing crimson eyes that seemed to freeze Sasuke's blood. It was the Kyuubi, and those eyes, they were identical to Naruto's. You, the Kyuubi. You shouldn't have pissed my vessel off like this, you pathetic little worm. Hey, you may not be that accursed Madara himself, but killing you should be satisfying nonetheless. The demon-possessed Naruto smiled, baring his fangs at the startled Uchiha. I need the power of the seal if I want to deal with this, Sasuke realized. However, the flash of realization came too late. An orange chakra-clad claw lashed out at him, and despite his Sharingan, Sasuke barely had the time to dodge. The minor cuts that it dealt hurt as if the chakra which had torn the skin open was poisonous, corroding his wounds even further. Tapping into the cursed seal which Orochimaru had left him, Sasuke felt his power increase. But, why can't I control it? Sasuke gritted his teeth, the pain spreading from the seal almost distracting him too much to evade another fierce lash from the chakra-covered Uzumaki. Stumbling back, Sasuke saw Naruto charge at him. His Sharingan pierced into the demon's eyes, but the Kyuubi only laughed. There is no way you can control me while I am inside this pathetic brat's body, Uchiha. That moment of distraction was the moment in which the Inuzuka finally saw his chance. Jumping in, he pushed the Uchiha out of the Jinchuriki's path. Naruto. Stop this, Kiba shouted. Get yourself together. Naruto. The Jinchuriki's face twisted in a cruel smile. Naruto isn't home right now. Sorry, you should try to call him later, or leave a message after I have wrecked this sorry excuse of an Uchiha for him. We cannot allow that, a new voice said. The gravelly voice of Tsunagaku's Jinchuriki was like music to Kiba's ears. You bet we can't, Tamari agreed, unfolding her war fan. Konkuro nodded in agreement, though his skewed war paint gave proof of his nervous sweating. Ah, the brat's little group of friends tries to stop me now. The fox felt amused. You are better than this, Naruto-kun, Hinata urged. Better. The Kyuubi laughed. Do you fools really think the kid is good? He couldn't help but laugh at the hilarious notion. The kid offered the Uchiha to me, he smiled. He gave up on hoping that this pathetic mongrel would redeem himself as that nestmate of yours did, child of Hamura. The idiotic Uchiha tapped into the accursed chakra that the snake brat left him with. He will only cause pain. Why else do you think the kid accepted my offer to remove the threat this easily? Naruto-kun wouldn't. Naruto-kun wouldn't what girl? The Kyuubi mocked her, badly imitating her voice. Do you even know the brat? You barely know how deep he can fall. Hinata's expression settled into what for her was an unusually determined look and an angered one. Subconsciously activating her Byakugan, she didn't even bother to notice Kiba taking a step back from her. Naruto-kun is not evil, she hissed. He is stronger than that, stronger than you. Even if you refuse to see that, demon. The demon was actually taken aback by this, if only for a moment, then it started laughing again. I understand it now. His loyalty to you, little princess, the Biju twisted Naruto's expression in a smirk. It would have been fun to exterminate all you vermin, but sadly I gave my word to only take. A claw of chakra erupted from Naruto's hand. The bubbling chakra extended, suddenly aiming for Sasuke. The Uchiha to his grave, the fox continued, as if nothing happened. I suppose I will deal with you next time, girl. Before Gaara's sand could block him, before Tamari could blast it away, the claw reached Sasuke. But Sasuke had predicted its movement with his Sharingan, and evaded it or so he thought. Midway, the appendage of chakra suddenly spouted a second claw. This second claw reached out for Sasuke, who was now caught off guard. That girl's little stunt made it far more difficult to influence the kid, the Kyuubi mused, barely paying attention to the Uchiha and instead taking one last look at the young Hyuga. I was sure he would have fallen to my control this time. The willpower that kept his seal functioning properly was fading ever since I helped him take down Shukaku. For him to still be capable of resisting me is disappointing. The Kyuubi felt frustrated that he yet again had to wait. Patience was a virtue which the demonic fox not really appreciated, but it was an unavoidable thing especially now that he was so close. Just like Kushina back then, those pesky humans seem to strengthen their hearts whenever they start to care about others. It's a good thing that he still cannot accept it. That he even sees it as a reason to distance himself from her makes it even better for me. He cares for her enough to go against his own instincts. Foolish humans. I might have made a promise this time, but he is right in that I would take her out first if I had the chance. She's my greatest threat, but not worth breaking my word over. I'd rather die than lower myself to the standards of those treasonous humans. At least death is only a temporary nuisance. The Kyuubi huffed once, and then released his control, letting Naruto collapse like a puppet whose strings got cut off. Annoying deals. But breaking a deal would be to lower myself to their level. At least it is another step in the right direction, the demon smirked to itself. Every time he uses my chakra is another crack in the seal that holds me back. The crimson chakra flowed away, and Hinata saw Naruto's eyes turn back to their normal blue color. His eyes weren't as bright as they were supposed to be, though. Lusterless was the best word she could find to describe it. Uzumaki Naruto looked up at the group. He saw the bleeding Uchiha sprawled at the ground. He couldn't care less about that. Sasuke brought that upon himself by challenging him. No, what hurt him was the look in the eyes of the others, the worries, concerns, fear. I lost. The Kyuubi used my anger against Sasuke and I lost control. Again, I'm becoming the liability everyone fears me to be. Naruto swallowed away the lump in his throat. Hinata stepped forward, reaching out towards him with a worried expression on her pale face. But Naruto moved backwards, and turned his face away. He felt ashamed. I am sorry, he gasped. I failed. Enter. Hiruzen sighed wearily. Looking up from his desk, he saw Shizune's frown as she opened the door. I will take a break after this, Hiruzen assured her. Please, do not force yourself to do too much, Sandaime-sama, while formal and respectful, the old man could hear the young woman's worry in her voice. Then again, this visitor was someone who provoked most shinobi to keep their guard up. Gaara-san, to what do I owe this pleasure? Hiruzen took out his pipe, and leaned back in his chair. He could see how much the young Jinchuriki had changed ever since Naruto altered the boy's seal. His eyes, especially, had changed. No longer did he radiate that murderous insanity. No, this boy was calm and controlled. Perhaps a bit too calm and controlled, to Hiruzen's liking, at least. This smelled more like the people or tools philosophy which many shinobi followed, and Hiruzen was never a fan of the excessive control of emotions. It always led to problems whenever a shinobi reached the point where their emotions grew too strong and any attempt to control them became futile. No, it was far better to deal with your emotions properly. Then again, Jinchuriki weren't exactly normal shinobi. And with a past like Gaara's. I am here for Uzumaki Naruto, the boy's gravelly voice sounded. Frowning, Hiruzen took a better look. He could see the boy was worried. Is there a problem with Naruto-kun? He decided axe. Sure, Sarutobi Hiruzen could give a long list of problems, but he'd rather hear from Gaara himself which issue rattled him this much. Yes. For his seal. Uzumaki-san helped me regain my sanity by strengthening my seal. But today's events. Gaara hesitated as he sought for the right words. And Hiruzen's grimace did not help him at that. Today's events were rather unfortunate. Hiruzen worded it as diplomatic as he could. And after hours of being annoyed by a wide range of people, it was a small wonder he remained so calm under it. It was not a matter of fortune. Gaara slowly shook his head in denial. Uzumaki-san made a deal with the Kyuubi when he saved me. That deal weakened his seal. In fact, each time he uses the Biju's chakra, his seal weakens further. The assassination attempt and today's assault are even more detrimental to it. I assigned extra protection, so that will not be sufficient, Hokage-sama. Drop the formalities, Gaara-san, and speak your mind, Hiruzen sighed. Uzumaki-san's seal is crumbling. Protection will not aid him. The only way is to strengthen his seal, like he strengthened mine. But he does not know how to do it. And what is worse, he seems to insist on doing everything on his own. But he needs help. Someone needs to strengthen the seal that imprisons the Kyuubi. If that does not happen, the next time Naruto loses control might be his last, Gaara concluded his plea. Hiruzen took the pipe from his mouth and remained silent for a moment. The alteration or restoration of a seal is an extremely difficult and dangerous subject, even in theory, Hiruzen grimaced. The particular seal applied by the Yondaime Hokage is a particularly difficult subject. Yes, a contract with the Shinigami itself was not a subject to be taken lightly, due to the terribly high price attached to it. The Shiki no Fujin was one of the most forbidden jutsu in history due to that very fact. Hiruzen knew full well that applying another source of power would be risking the destabilization of Naruto's seal. Yet Uzumaki-san managed to create a seal on top of my seal. Is such a method not possible with Gaara-san? You underestimate Naruto's prowess. The seal he created is of a very high level, and its strength is even greater due to the influence of the Kyuubi's chakra, which overpowers the Ikebis. There aren't many shinobi in our world that could create a seal of equal strength, Hiruzen admitted. And creating a seal on top of a seal usually creates limitations in terms of chakra control. The seal which Naruto created for you does not stop the crumbling of the original seal you have. Gaara nodded. Naruto had explained it in a similar way when he talked about the difficulties in altering Gaara's seal. In essence, the new seal would become Shukaku's new prison, as the old seal would decay over time. Yes, the new seal would slow the process, but it would not stop it. In Naruto's case, Hiruzen continued. It would be disastrous if the original seal that holds the Kyuubi at bay crumbles. The strain it would create on Naruto would most likely kill him, as any seal placed on top of the original would not be able to handle the collapse of the original seal. That is why Jinchuriki who lose control over their Biju usually have their Biju extracted. Dual-layer seals are never fully stable. And with a Biju, the risks outweigh the gains. Gaara felt a little chilled by this logic. So this is how his predecessors had met their fates. For the village, at least. With Naruto's seal, the only possibility is reinforcing the seal itself, Hiruzen admitted. But a seal weakens when different types of chakra are used. So it is impossible to reinforce his seal. Hiruzen turned and looked out of the window. Impossible. I didn't say that. He smiled with a bittersweet expression on his old face. Looking out over the village, Naruto sat on top of the mountain ridge above the Uzumaki compound. He knew the others were looking for him. But he wanted to be alone, so he had activated his stealth seal and hid his tracks for now. I am failing, he sighed to himself. I have become a danger to everyone. But now, they were trying to help him. Couldn't they see that nothing could be done? He needed to do this on his own. No one could help him. He was alone. He had always been alone, and now he was lost. How long until the demon broke free? How much longer until he had to take the Kyuubi down with him? Naruto knew the demon would reform a few years after its death, but at least that would give Konoha some time to prepare. Had Naruto been less troubled, he would have listened to Gaara's arguments. He would have listened to Karen's worries, to Hinata's attempt to encourage him, to her statement of how much faith his friends had in him. He would have heard how she saw him as her inspiration, because he never gave up, because he always endured, no matter the odds. But what did they know? Then again, apart from Gaara, none would fully comprehend that his actions were not his own. Had Naruto been less troubled, he would have recognized that most of his darker thoughts were the result of the Kyuubi's whispers. Its whispers cut down each bud of hope before it ever had a chance to bloom. No, there was no hope for Uzumaki Naruto. But there was for the monstrous fox, who sat behind the thick iron bars within Naruto's mindscape, smiling contently. The fox considered that everything was going according to his plans now. The girl might have given his host the will to continue a bit longer, but it was already too late. No one could stop him now. Soon, the demon chuckled. I can almost smell my freedom. With each passing day, his hopes will fall apart, and my will influence grow. After these accursed 13 years, I can finally stretch my claws again. Ha! If that accursed Madara had not disrupted the blonde bastard back then, who knows how much longer it would have taken to tear down this damnable prison. His 9 massive tails swept through the prison, as the Kyuubi could not contain his excitement. Still, part of him felt badly for Naruto. Though he wasn't as bad a prison as Kushina or Mito, he is still a prison. So why should I waste any emotions on him? After all, the brat is only human. He should have been stronger if he had wanted to be worthy of my trust. Flanked by Tsunade, Sarutobi Hiruzen had gone to the roof. The high building which housed his office had a good view over the village, something which he needed to see right now. He longed to see his village, even though he couldn't take a stroll through it like he used to do. But with the quandary that occupied his mind, sometimes he just felt as if seeing the village reinvigorated his beliefs. You should be more careful, old man. Tsunade's worried frown was at contrast with her calm words. For what, Tsunade? Hiruzen smiled gently. My demise is merely a matter of time. Why can't I do something which I enjoy? You're in an awfully fatalistic mood today. I must admit that I find it somewhat ironic hearing you, of all people, say that. People change, Tsunade huffed. Naruto-kun certainly has that effect on people, doesn't he? Hiruzen chuckled. What does the Gaki have to do with this? Nothing. Hiruzen looked up, staring his former student in her eyes. Yet everything. The promise which the new generations hold is always a wonderful sight for old people like me. And with Naruto-kun even more so than any other. If you're going to stay this cryptic, I would suspect that I should lower the dose of your medications. I am the past, Tsunade. I only need to see to it that I fulfill my tasks to the very end, Hiruzen smiled. It is a debt I need to repay to all those who came before me, and my duty to all those who follow after me. The next generation is the only true legacy we old people leave behind after our deaths. Seriously, sometimes I wonder if you don't take the teachings of my uncle and grandfather too far. Would that be a bad thing? Hiruzen asks, slightly surprised. Tsunade didn't voice her opinion on the way of the shinobi often, not since her brother died, at least, and especially not since Dan died. Her faith had been broken by those sorrowful incidents. But Hiruzen saw that the little sparkle she once had was returning to her brown eyes. Sabaku no Gaara wasn't the only person who had changed due to Naruto's determination. Tsunade grimaced for a moment, but her features softened a little when she saw the old man's fatigued expression. No, knowing them, you couldn't have made them any prouder. She saw the content smile on the wrinkled man's face and slowly saw his demeanor change. Tsunade wondered what kind of burden had just fallen from his tired old shoulders, but knew that asking him would be pointless. That is the highest praise I could get from you while you are sober. Hiruzen tried to lighten the mood. Yes, he had made his choice. It wasn't the one he had hoped for, but it was the one he had to make. He just had to accept the price that came with it, but knew that it was well worth it. Don't talk like I don't do anything but dry. There is a sake bottle in your left pocket, Tsunade-chan. Hiruzen looked at her with a deadpan expression. Bonus. Rivalry. Tisk. Like a lazy bum like you could ever teach him shogi properly, Temari scoffed after Shikamaru challenged Naruto. The party was well underway, and the Nara had been talking to Naruto when Temari had walked by. Don't act so damn troublesome all of the time, Shikamaru grimaced. Unless you want to say you can beat me. As if I'd lose to someone like you. Choji stood by, and took a bag of chips from his pockets. Shika seems fired up. This is going to be good. You know that after 7 games in a row, this is pointless, right? Ino smirked as saw her teammate beat Temari yet again. She had to admit that Temari did make things difficult for Shikamaru, though. She had done far more than she, Choji, or Asuma could, but it wasn't enough. The overly competitive Kunoichi losing her cool due to the confident smile that lingered on Shikamaru's lips didn't help her much either. Shikamaru estimated that she would have had a large opportunity to win, if it hadn't been for that impetuous move she made. Anger was a bad advisor during shogi. Shut it, Blondie, Temari growled. I'll beat him next time. Again. Shikamaru grumbled. I admit you're more of a challenge than I anticipated, but this is getting a bit troublesome. I have won 7 times in a row, just admit defeat. Temari narrowed her eyes and stared at him. Or we could play an 8th game, Shikamaru sighed. The broad smile Temari showed conflicted with the fierce look in her eyes, and unsettled the lazy Nara. Ranked troublesome indeed. Hell, she could give mom a run for her money. Akko frowned as she suddenly saw a kunai fly by. Seeing Choji run around the corner, she wondered what was going on. Don't go there, the Akamichi warned her. Shikamaru made a terrible mistake. What is going on? She wanted coffee. Coffee. Temari, after she lost her 9th match, demanded a rematch after she had some coffee. Akko heard the angered Kunoichi shout something. I don't get it, how could that have resulted in this situation? Shikamaru hates coffee more than anything else, Choji looked nervously. And Temari, well, she was already furious for losing in shogi, and it turned out that she shares Gaara's obsessive addiction to coffee. She took Shikamaru's words regarding coffee as a personal insult, and blew up. You're kidding, right? Akko raised her brows. She sighed when Choji didn't respond. So it is chaos and mass destruction yet again. This is why shogi should be forbidden. This is the 3rd time I have seen this happen, although Naruto is innocent this time. He may have laughed after Shikamaru began to run from Temari. She kinda lost what little patience she had at that point, and took out her fan, Choji mumbled, uncomfortable under the gaze of the Hyuga. And, well, he wasn't the only reason why Temari got so frustrated from losing 9 games. Let me guess, our sweet little kitten ran her mouth again, Akko deadpanned. I swear I'm going to make Naruto ban that rotten game the very moment he becomes Hokage. Choji gulped when he saw the Hyuga stride away. How can she be so dangerous? And here I hoped that more Hyuga would be like Hinata. Chapter 49. God, I'm Hokage. Stop thrashing around like that. A female voice, harsh and without any sort of compassion, roared through his head. Well, roared. Uchiha Sasuke had just woken up with one hell of a headache. One so bad that even a falling needle sounded like an avalanche of boulders crashing through his room. Where am I? He muttered, trying and failing to open his eyes. What was going on? Where was he? Konoha Hospital. The woman remained as curt as ever. The Kyuubi, the Dobi hit me and then, Sasuke realized what put him here. How bad? You've sustained a bad case of chakra poisoning, a different but very familiar voice sounded. You're not allowed to use your chakra, including your eyes, that is why you are blindfolded. Yes, That voice sounded as bored as ever, but unlike most times, this time there was very strong undercurrent of disapproval in it. Annoyance, even. How long? You've been out for 2 days, and your wounds to the chest are mostly healed. You should count yourself lucky for even surviving that fight, Kakashi sighed. What were you thinking, Sasuke? Were you even thinking when you decided to assault Naruto? Silence. It wasn't like Kakashi was expecting an answer, but still, fine. As of right now, you are restricted to D-rank missions only. And until I decide otherwise, you are excluded from any form of promotion. Your behavior is unbefitting of your clan, and even your genin rank. You should count yourself lucky that you weren't stripped of your rank. But Hokage-sama deemed it better to keep Naruto's slip of control from the public. And demoting you would only draw attention to that. Sasuke heard a chair shove, and footsteps heading away from him. Use this time to think about what you have done, Sasuke. And make a choice. Because if you want to continue like this, you should stop pretending to be a shinobi. Just remember, you are not the only one who ever lost someone. Take a good look at how Sakura is dealing with it, for instance. A door closed, and Sasuke was left alone again. Alone with his thoughts, the memories that haunted through the young Uchiha's head. You are weak, you know that. Naruto chuckled. Hinata-sama showed me what true strength is. I realized my own ignorance and weakness then, but it seems you are even weaker. You were right. I am weak, Sasuke whispered, completely missing the point that Naruto followed a different definition of strength, and far too angry to even bother remaining silent. But not for much longer. When they return, I will get all the power I require. Damn, that shithead really is a pathetic piece of crap, Hyuga grumbled, no one had been able to keep track of how many times she said it. Once she started ranting, she usually didn't stop until the object of annoyance was eliminated. And considering their orders, that was something that could not be done this time. 3 of the Sound 4 were sitting in their hideout, an old and undiscovered lab belonging to Orochimaru. For someone without control of the seal, he didn't perform that badly, Kidomaru sighed. But that blonde piece of trash. You were the one who saw it, it was your shift watching the Uchiha princess, Hyuga retorted. How bad could that blonde faggot have been? Orochimaru-sama told us to keep away from him, Sakin shrugged. So he's probably some kind of freak of nature. What I felt was far worse. Don't tell me you're going chicken on us too, Hyuga exclaimed. That fat moron is watching the hospital right now, him being the only coward of the 4 of us is enough. That blonde kid wasn't normal, I told you, Kidomaru snapped. That chakra of his, I'm not even a censor, but I knew it was wrong. I never felt anything like it. Well, I love the blonde kid for making the princess look like a piece of trash, Hyuga chuckled. I'd say we take him to Orochimaru-sama instead, and just kill that fucking emo. Phew, I finally made it, Jiraiya sighed aloud as he walked through the gates of Konohagakure. It had taken him nearly 2 days to travel from Kumo's border back to the village. It would have gone faster, if he hadn't spent a few hours at a local brothel, but Jiraiya wouldn't be Jiraiya if he hadn't done that. Jiraiya-sama, Kamizuki Izumo, one of the 2 gate guards, said with a reverent tone. Sandaime-sama asks us to send you to his office the moment you returned. The old man missed me that much, did he? Jiraiya smirked. Katetsu already sent word to the Hokage's office. Don't worry, I'll go right away. Jiraiya waved goodbye. And don't forget to buy my latest release, he joked. You know, about that, we don't. That's exactly why, Jiraiya smiled. You 2 would be the most objective readers I could get. Izumo smiled and waved back. He smiled, because Jiraiya never treated him and Katetsu differently, despite their irregular preferences, as the council had labeled it. He treated them with friendliness, even supported them whenever he could. Although he did make a point out of trying to sell his Ika Ika series to them, which they would keep refusing at least, until he produced a version that was more suited to their tastes. But Jiraiya loved women far too much to consider such a thing. And back to guard duty, Izumo sighed. At times I wonder if Katetsu and I made the right decision to be so open about our relationship. Then again, I'd rather be honest about it and be banished to this boring gate job by those homophobic old goats, than be forced to live my life in secrecy. I see you didn't listen to my advice, Jiraiya said on a serious tone. Nor Tsunade's. He sat on his usual spot in the window opening. His gaze went over the pale and wrinkly face of the Sandaime Hokage. The poisoned man insisted on doing his duty to the bitter end, like a true shinobi, although Jiraiya would have rather had it that the man could enjoy his last days a bit more. Jiraiya thought he would rather die in a more spectacular way himself, but he always had more attention for the theatrics. Sarutobi Hiruzen was a shinobi to the core of his being, and he would rather pick the most agonizing death if it meant that he could serve his village best. There was a lot to take care of, Hiruzen sighed wearily. Naruto. What? Uchiha Sasuke attacked Naruto-kun, Hiruzen sighed. The fool has yet to leave the hospital after what Naruto did to him. Though I suspect Tsunade had something to do with it as well. She was rather angry when part of the council demanded that Naruto's chakra would be sealed off completely, and after that, she refused to treat Sasuke, and forbade Shizune too. They wanted to do what? Jiraiya growled. Those damn idiots. Hiruzen put up his hands, ending the rant Jiraiya wanted to start. Tsunade nearly wrecked the meeting hall when Kaharu put that motion to a vote. Needless to say that I would have vetoed it, even if it had passed, but luckily the majority was smart enough to understand that sealing Naruto's chakra would have permanently removed his chances of gaining control over the Kyuubi's chakra. It would be condemning him to death, Jiraiya snarled. It would be no different from what Naruto unknowingly did to Gaara, the only difference being that whatever seals those morons would put on Naruto would inevitably be a lot weaker, while the Kyuubi is far stronger than the Ikibi. I know, Hiruzen interrupted, trying to calm his former student down. It was already dealt with, he sighed. How is Naruto? The Kyuubi is troubling him more and more. We will need to discuss that matter privately, and soon, Hiruzen exhaled audibly. If that's all, why did I have to come up here with such urgency? If you wait a minute, the others should be here in a few moments. Others? Jiraiya frowned. But he didn't get the chance to ask as the door was forced open by a rather loud Tsunade. Why was I called away this time? The blonde demanded aggressively. What are those idiots trying to do this time to? Oh, Jiraiya, you're finally back. She blinked in surprise. Jiraiya sniffed and started to smile when he realized what smelled so familiar. Interrupted during an important checkup, I take it. Was the sake good? Yeah, until one of Sensei's lackeys dragged me out, Tsunade admitted somewhat sheepishly. Is the brat not here yet? He'll be here soon enough. I sent word for Rado to get him here as soon as possible. Rado. Jiraiya wondered. Why is that kid called here? After the whole incident with Sasuke, I assigned Rado to guard Naruto. Enko's failure to act was rather spectacular, Hiruzen said darkly. As a consequence, she's helping Rado. Though, I think those two don't really like each other. A loose cannon like Enko and a control freak like Rado. That's not really the team I'd put together. There were some difficulties, but Kurenai intervened. That woman certainly has skill in keeping everyone on one line. That Hyuga girl certainly taught her a thing or two in that, it seems. And the group moved to the Uzumaki compound, Tsunade said. We thought it would be better to move Naruto and Gaara out of the Uchiha district. Kurenai uses the area on top of the mountain to get her new genin up to speed, so she's close enough to keep an eye on the situation. So, it has gone pretty well so far. And the cleaning and repairing of the buildings and ground formed a few nice D-rank missions, Hiruzen chuckled. But why Rado? Jiraiya wanted to know. You know who he swore his loyalties to, Hiruzen looked at his former pupil. And considering how attached Enko became to the makeshift family, I hope that the two of them would have enough common ground to cooperate properly. And why are they at Kushina's old place? The old man told Naruto about Minato and Kushina, Tsunade grimaced. I know he would, Jiraiya grimaced. How did he take it? Well, he didn't kill anyone, Tsunade sighed. But it took me a while to calm him down. At least, as far as I know. That kid keeps a lot bottled up inside him. Jiraiya, I know Naruto hated Minato from the moment he knew who sealed the Kyuubi within him. It was my duty to tell Naruto, and if he would hate anyone for telling him the truth, it might as well be me. I'm dying anyway, so it doesn't matter to Konoha if he hates me for keeping this secret from him. You said that before, but still, Naruto was already struggling. I'm worried that we put too many burdens on his shoulders. What do you want me to do, Jiraiya? Wait until he found out by himself. Wait until the Kyuubi used that particular piece of information in order to push Naruto over the edge. Hiruzen sighed. I would rather tell Naruto in a controlled way. He deserves to know the truth. Besides, Tsunade already had a good talk with him afterwards. And if he hates me, well, I'd rather have him hate me than my successor. Sensei, you shouldn't. Ah, they're here. Enter. Hiruzen interrupted. Rado opened the door, and Naruto entered the office, looking somewhat uncomfortable. Though, Jiraiya was mostly alarmed by the tired look on the boy's face. The kid looks like he's haunted. Hell, with the Kyuubi trying to possess him, that's probably pretty close what is actually happening too, isn't it? The Toad Sage considered. I'll guard the door. Rado bowed and closed the door again, standing outside so that none would interfere. Good morning, Naruto-kun, Hiruzen said friendly, although Jiraiya saw the sad look in his sensei's eyes. Naruto looked up at Tsunade, who gave the slightest of nods, and then he stared at the old Sandaime. I'm sorry, Ji-san, he began. For my outburst when you told me about my mother and that bastard. I shouldn't have blamed you for what he did to me. I understand why it was kept a secret. I don't like it, but I can understand it. Jiraiya saw Hiruzen change a little, as if a weight was lifted from the old man's shoulders. He still looked exhausted, but at least his air wasn't as depressed as before. I guess his hatred against Minato won't go away as easily. But while we don't know what exactly happened that night, how are we supposed to take that away? Jiraiya thought, sad that his student, the man who had felt like a son to him, was now despised by his own son. Thank you, Naruto-kun, Hiruzen spoke softly. For a moment he appeared more fragile than ever. You don't know how much that means to me, he smiled gently. No problem. Naruto scratched the back of his head, embarrassed by the old man's raw gratitude. But why was I called here? I wanted to discuss the matter of my succession. Hey, you want me to be Hokage? Naruto joked brightly, with an almost convincingly real smile. I thought you'd never ask, he ended with a low voice. Not you, Hiruzen chuckled. Not yet. Perhaps if I had a few years more, he smiled, but then he turned serious. Naruto-kun, who do you think is the best person to succeed me? I'm not really into that political stuff. But if you had to name someone. Naruto looked at Jiraiya and Tsunade, knowing that these two were by far the best options for the old man to succeed him. He had heard more than enough about the other contender, Danzo, by now to know that he would be a bad choice. I guess you want me to convince Ero Sennin to take the hat. He dropped his smiling facade and looked soberly at the Hokage and his former students. I sure hope you can do what I could not, Hiruzen smirked. No way. I told you before, Sensei, that I have no interest in that position, Jiraiya huffed. Because you want to train me. Naruto guessed. I made my promises, Jiraiya nodded. I owe that to you. And whether you like it or not, I owe it to Minato and Kushina too. Hell, I even owe it to Konoha itself. Your training is probably the most important thing for Konoha. You can train me right here, Naruto interjected. Considering how well the Uzumaki compound is shielded. And otherwise, I could move to Myobokuzen and train with the toads. You could be reverse summoned up and down from here, right? At least, Gamakichi said that was possible. You three planned this all out, didn't you? Jiraiya accused. Perhaps, Tsunade smiled knowingly. But considering how I refused to take the position and Danzo is the worst possible option, you are by far the best choice. Hell, there are more people capable of doing it. Jiraiya started to feel a little cornered. Kakashi, Guy, Asuma, there are enough strong enough to. None of them have the reputation and experience you have, Jiraiya. Nor are they even close to your strength, Hiruzen stopped Jiraiya's reasoning. Nor do any of them get the amount of respect in the other nations that you do. Tsunade is far better at this political bullshit than I am. Frankly, Tsunade Bachan is strong enough too, Naruto said. But while you worked for Konoha from the shadows, Bachan fled away from the village. How is someone who apparently can't control her emotions, who gambles and drinks most of the time while she's awake, going to command the authority to govern Konohagakure? Tsunade frowned a little at Naruto's words, but she couldn't refute them. Not completely, at least. Though, had it not been Naruto who uttered the words, she would have likely punched him through the wall. Because these words hurt her more than she wanted to admit. Sorry Ba-chan. But after Haruki's death, I realized that the worst thing anyone can do is flee from their own pasts. To try and forget about the ones you've lost, as if you deny that they ever existed, I find it the worst insult to anyone's memory. Naruto hurt her even further. I like you, you are my family, and I love you as such. But I can't ignore what you did in the past, not when I have to consider someone as my leader. I guess you are right, Tsunade sighed. Agitated, but she could see Naruto's point of view. In fact, ever since she had returned to Konoha, she had doubted what she had done these past years. Shizune is so much happier ever since we came back. And I feel different as well. It still hurts to see the places which remind me of Dan and Naoki, but perhaps Naruto is right. Perhaps I really could better honor them, rather than keep running away. Neither of them would like it if I drink and gamble my entire life away. And Shizune, if she's happier here, I could perhaps stick around this place for a while longer. See how it works out. I know it would be better for her. I owe her that much. Sensei, I'll take charge of the hospital, she blurted out before she fully realized what she just said. What? The way Shizune acts. What the Gaki said. I guess I'll have to stick around for a while longer. And I might as well earn my pay while doing so, Tsunade sighed. Besides, someone has to keep an eye on that pervert, or the women of Konoha would be unprotected against him. As an elder in the council, I'd be able to restrain his more perverted actions. Hey, I didn't even agree with anything in all this. Jiraiya protested. Sensei. Naruto kept speaking with the same unnaturally serious tone of voice. One which no 13-year-old should have, but which his life had made inevitable. You talked about the cycle of hatred, didn't you? Well, yes, but how else do you think you can change anything, if not by giving the good example for your own village? Naruto suggested. Who said that I am a good example? So are you still blaming yourself for what happened to Orochimaru? Hiruzen realized. If anyone is to be blamed for that, it would be me, Jiraiya. I failed him as his sensei. Yet I was the one who was unable to bring him back, Jiraiya admitted. I failed him. I failed Minato. I failed Yahiko, Nagato, and Konan. I am not a good example. I am a failure. You seem to be a pretty good one, if you ask me, Tsunade disagreed. Just look at how famous Minato became. All the nations trembled at his skill. You can hardly say that you weren't responsible for that. Kushina sure had her influence, but he was your student first. And look at how you helped Naruto grow. Without your guidance, his skill at Fuinjutsu would never have grown this much. And so what if you made mistakes? You can show others how to prevent making them, right? Naruto spoke before Jiraiya could open his mouth. The Yondaime might be the world's biggest asshole in my books, but his prowess is undeniable. If you can train such a shinobi, who knows what happens if you lead an entire village? Though I hope that you teach everyone not to seal demons into babies, this time, he added cynically. You taught me to never walk away from my responsibilities, sensei. If you ever felt like life sucks, then make sure no one else will ever feel pain like that. That's why I want the hat, Naruto added darkly. Jiraiya pinched the bridge of his nose. You three really rehearsed this, didn't you? Not really, though I did ask the Gaki to find a way to convince you, Tsunade smirked. And he made a pretty damn convincing case, if I may add. Thank you, Oba-chan. Kid, don't push it. What did you mumble, Oba-chan? Naruto teased. I wonder why old people never speak clearly. I told you before, Jiraiya, you are the best option I have as my successor, Hiruzen quickly continued, before Tsunade would smack Naruto out of the room for calling her old. In fact, if you hadn't refused it back when Minato died, I would never have taken back the position which actually had to be yours. But I am dying, so I can't keep this seat occupied for much longer. Someone has to keep the bounties from Naruto's head, Jiraiya tried to counter, but he already knew his defense was weakening. Other Jonin can do that, Hiruzen said. We would need a replacement for your information network too, but you can't keep that up while you are training Naruto either. Arg, fine then. Jiraiya succumbed. I don't like this, but if you all push me this much. And I agree that Danzo would be a disaster. But don't come complaining if I make a mess of it. I warned you that I am not fit to take this position. You should stop underestimating your own competency. Hiruzen smiled. Sensei, might I suggest something? Naruto was a little hesitant all of a sudden. Jiraiya nodded. If you want help, you need a good assistant, right? And you have the right to pick your own, if I understood it correctly. You read the laws about this. Jiraiya blinked. Well, the way I see it, you need someone strict enough to keep you from your perverted occupations, while being tolerant enough at the same time. Someone who is serious, trustworthy, and capable enough to take the job. And most of all, someone whose heart isn't corrupted. And, I think Iruka-sensei would be the perfect person to take that job. Your old academy teacher. Jiraiya frowned. Well, if you trust him that much, I could always have a talk with him. At least, if he wants the position. Oh, I'll convince him of that, Naruto smirked. You can count on that. Fine, then I'll announce it at the council during tomorrow's meeting, Hiruzen decided. And I'll put that also with the public announcement of Naruto's burden after the council has made its decision. But I already know that a majority supports your claim. My claim. Hey, I never even wanted it, Jiraiya grumbled. I suppose you made it in my name, didn't you? You guys must really hate me. I'm going to get something to drink. I've been tricked into enough shit for today. And what is that about telling everyone about Naruto's burden? I asked the old man to revoke the law that prevented people from talking about the Kyuubi. I think it doesn't really matter any longer, after what I did during the exams and the invasion, Naruto shrugged. I guess this way, people can at least talk about this stuff, and avoid misconceptions about who I am. And if they hate me, then it won't change anything either, but at least they'll know the truth. Most people already dislike me anyway, he chuckled darkly. At least those who matter to me know about it. If that's what you want, Jiraiya sighed. Care to join me for some sake? Is this another one of your attempts to ask me for a date? Tsunade frowned. Not really, but if you want it to be like that. Jiraiya smirked, though not very convincingly. Shut it. Let's get a few bottles, and you're paying. The two Sannin vanished from the room. Turning towards the now soon-to-be ex-Hokage, Naruto bowed. Seems it worked out better than you expected, Ji-san. Ero Sennin actually bought it, and quicker than expected. That it did, though I'm not looking forward to the paperwork that follows after this decision, the old man sighed. Ah well, just another few days, and then I can spend the rest of my days with my family. Did you tell Konohamaru? Not yet. He knows something is wrong, Naruto admitted. I met him yesterday. He's worried, Jii-san, because he can see you're not well. I bet he does. Despite his rebellious nature, he is a smart young lad. He's so much like his father, that it sometimes just hurts, Hiruzen smiled sadly. But telling him I'm dying due to this poison, it is not an easy thing to tell a boy of his age. Just, don't keep secrets from him too long. That sometimes hurts more than the secret itself, Naruto sighed, before he turned and left the room. You certainly have grown, Naruto-kun, Hiruzen mumbled. I suppose I can now focus on the final few tasks left to me. Sarutobi Hiruzen did not feel too sad about that. In fact, he did not fear dying at all. His poisoned body had run out of time. At least this way, he could die as a shinobi should, not as a crippled old man. And what better way to die, than to give life to the person he'd set his hopes on for the future of this world. Why are we going to the academy? Classes haven't finished yet, Rado frowned. Hokage business, Naruto smirked. Got to get a hold of Iruka right away. But interrupting his lecture. The kids will be happy for any interruption, believe me, Naruto looked at his overly serious guard. This is about the time Iruka has his history lectures. Even a guy as stern as you would get bored by that. The wheel-like scar on Rado's face contorted for a moment as he grimaced. A good shinobi should have discipline. What good is discipline if your life is devoid of fun, Naruto wondered. I guess that's why you and Anko can't stand each other. You're polar opposites. You're all serious, while she's making a joke out of everything, Naruto chuckled, thinking back at the discussion the two had in the morning. Anko's complete lack of discipline did not go too well with Rado's methodical attitude. In this case, she had made fun of his annoyance, leading to him ordering her to stay home and guard Gaara despite a guard at the Uzumaki compound being completely redundant due to the barriers surrounding the place. Still, after the upheaval the recent incidents with Naruto had caused, Hiruzen had deemed it wise to increase security around him. With Rado's insistence on following the oath he had made to Minato, Rado had been appointed as Naruto's chief guard, rather than Yamato. As punishment for being drunk while Naruto was under attack from Sasuke, Anko had been appointed as Rado's subordinate for the duration of the mission. This was beside the fact that she was once again Akko's subordinate as well. The Uzumaki compound required a lot of work to undo the long years of neglect. As happy as Anko had been to finally be done with cleaning their temporary quarters at the Uchiha compound, she was back at square one again. So, to say that Anko was in a foul mood was an understatement, and being the target of a village-wide ban on alcohol on orders of the Hokage himself only worsened things. With the punishments Hiruzen had promised, no shopkeeper was willing to break that ban. Not even Tsunade had been willing to help. Then again, sharing sake was never one of the Senju's strongest points. She usually consumed it all herself. And then appeared Rado, saying that she brought it on herself by getting drunk while being on active duty. That certainly was the last straw. Naruto smiled faintly. Why Iruka-san? Rado decided to change the subject, though Naruto could see a small vein throbbing, giving away that Rado still had not calmed down. Then again, getting a bunch of snakes chasing you while you're trying to eat breakfast isn't really a good start for the day, Naruto considered. Because Iruka-sensei is one of the few people who I trust. And Jiraiya-sama agrees. Don't know, Naruto shrugged. I'm here to convince Iruka-sensei to take the job, whether Ero Sennin accepts him or not is not for me to decide. That's something for the pervert himself. Though I think Iruka would be able to rein in some of Ero Sennin's bad traits. Jiraiya-sama is a legendary shinobi, Rado countered. Almost as legendary as his perverted mind is. Did you ever read his books? Rado coughed, and was saved by the academy popping up in front of them. Jumping over the rooftops, it hadn't taken the two of them very long to reach their destination. Naruto still smirked as he entered the building. He now had a nice little secret on Rado, which he could probably use to bribe him. I bet that after this morning, he would never want Anko to know that he has some bad habits too. Konohamaru woke from his slumber when suddenly a familiar green-clad shinobi entered the room. Though Konohamaru didn't recognize the strange flak jacket at first, the blonde head on top of it was unmistakable. Boss. Iruka blinked when Konohamaru suddenly shouted. Konohamaru-kun, sit down and behave yourself for once. Iruka snapped at the hyperactive Sarutobi. Why don't you give them an hour off? A familiar voice took Iruka off guard. Naruto-kun. Iruka wondered. Why are you here? Hokage business. Naruto smirked, though Rado pinched the bridge of his nose when Naruto turned to the children and shouted. Hear that, kids? I'm kidnapping Iruka-sensei, so get out of here before a replacement can get here. Flee. Flee while you still can. Hanabi stared at the Uzumaki incredulously. Is he seriously a Chunin? The young Hyuga wondered. However, there was something else about Naruto's demeanor that was bugging her. Something was off about the Uzumaki, yet Hanabi could not pinpoint what. Before Iruka could protest, the vast majority of the kids had fled. Naruto gestured to the Konohamaru squad to leave as well, though they were disappointed that Naruto couldn't play ninja with them. Business first, Naruto had replied. Explain yourself, the teacher demanded when the trio left. Hanabi lingered near the doorway as well, before Rado closed it. Why are you interrupting my lecture? How serious are you about Akko-chan? Naruto countered his question with a question of his own. What? Iruka started to blush a little. That's none of your. Akko-chan was my caretaker, and as such she stayed with me at the Uchiha district, and will for the time being also stay at my new home. Naruto remained patient. But what will you two do when she gets reassigned? Because that will be inevitable. We hadn't thought that far ahead, Iruka admitted. Rado felt a bit out of place near this discussion, and stood stiffly at the door. And why are you interrupting class for such a? Akko-chan is a part of the branch house, and while it isn't that common, they are allowed to marry commoners. But, and I mean no offense, you're not exactly part of any major clan, nor are you particularly important yourself, Naruto continued. Still, her brother is one of the more powerful shinobi in the branch house. Due to that, Akko-chan has good social standing in the branch as well. That is why I ask you, how serious are you two? Because if you choose to remain a teacher, Iruka-sensei, it would be better if you two quit dating. Now listen, Iruka started to get annoyed. The Hyuga would never allow you two to get closer, Naruto cut him off. Those cold and calculating bastards wouldn't allow one of their finer branch members to marry someone without power or prestige. But I do have a way out of that, a job offer, so that is why I want an answer. Because I am technically spilling secrets if I continue now, Naruto admitted sheepishly. An offer. Iruka frowned. But, Naruto gave his old teacher a pointed look. Yes, Akko-chan and I, we really like each other, Iruka admitted. We know our position is a difficult one, but how could we change that? I could get you a conversation with our next Hokage, and see if you could become his assistant, Naruto smirked. That would give you the prestige in the village you'd need to openly date Akko-chan, wouldn't it? A assistant. Iruka felt his jaw drop. Me. Promise me you keep this a secret, Naruto warned his former teacher. But Jiraiya-sensei has agreed to take the hat, and considering how you are one of the few I trust, I asked him if he wanted to take you as his assistant. I mean, he needs someone strict enough to keep him focused on his job, and after my years here, I thought that you would be the perfect candidate for it. And I thought that it would be a great way to help you and Akko-chan out as well. That is. Don't thank me yet. Ero Sennin has to agree first, it's his decision. But I felt like it was rather pointless to continue this if you wouldn't want to take the position. Iruka felt torn for a moment. I love my job as a teacher, he admitted. But you are right. I do have to make a choice between my job and Akko. No, actually, I shouldn't even say that it is a matter of choosing. When can I speak Jiraiya-sama? Iruka asks after a moment of silence. His appointment isn't official yet. He and Ji-san have to go to the council first, tomorrow, so that's why this is a secret. But the old pervert already has a majority of the votes in favor of him becoming the Godime Hokage. How do you know all this? Iruka wondered, almost wondering if this was some kind of elaborate prank. We just left the office of Hokage-sama, Rado answered for Naruto. Since we are spilling secrets anyway, I might as well explain that due to the responsibilities Jiraiya-sama has towards Naruto, Naruto was brought in to convince him to take Sandaime-sama's position. Yeah, being the village's Jinchuriki has its merits too, ya know. Not many, but still, Naruto turned and started walking towards the door. I'll let Ero Sennin know that you want the spot, but I'll leave it to you to tell Akko-chan, okay? I mean, it's not official yet. It's probably for the best to wait with telling her until it is official. No point in giving her false hope. Thank you, Naruto-kun, thank you for the opportunity, Iruka whispered, still not having processed half of the conversation. Just buy me some ramen if it goes well, Naruto waved goodbye. Though, it would be enough of a reward to know that Akko is out of the Hyuga's reach when I die because of that rotten fox. I should at least make sure that this shitty world is a little better before I go. Well now, what is this ruckus? Asuma grunted, barging into his father's office, one day later. The harsh voices could be heard from the other side, and Asuma's appointment was scheduled for 10 minutes ago. Considering that he was supposed to go out with Kurenai tonight, not that he'd make this public knowledge, he didn't have the patience of waiting any longer. Inside, a weary Sarutobi Hiruzen looked at his son. The old man looked far happier than the three other elders in the room. Our meeting has not ended yet, Homura gestured that Asuma should leave. I don't think so, Asuma grumbled. Dad, you said you would take it easy, what on earth are you doing? This is not your business, Danzo interjected. I just made it my business, Asuma cut him off. Why don't you old goats bother the Godime and leave my dad some peace? Danzo's visible eye narrowed, agitated by the audacity of the Jonin. I suppose with that man elected, we should expect the discipline of our shinobi at this standard. He got the majority of the council backing him, doesn't he? Asuma scoffed. So there's no point in complaining here. The decision was made, The word is already out, so there's no stopping it. So go bother someone who isn't as tired as my dad. Hiruzen sighed as he watched his old teammates leave his office. Well, the office wasn't his anymore. He had been busy gathering his possessions, so that Jiraiya could take his seat tomorrow morning. Hiruzen knew like no other how busy the first days after being elected Hokage were. After all, he had experienced it twice. Danzo is still annoyed that he didn't get more support, Hiruzen smirked. After Hiashi declared that the Hyuga supported Jiraiya, right at the start of the meeting, the doubters all followed. Apparently, Hiashi saw Danzo's absence during the invasion as a sign of weakness, though I suspect his wife had something to do with it as well. She never liked Danzo very much. Well, what kind of idiot would trust that bastard? Asuma grimaced. Considering all his shady dealings, I bet the only ones who supported his claim were those he had sufficient material on for blackmailing. Don't be too cynical. Danzo might be the embodiment of Konoha's darkness, but he has done a lot of good things as well. Things that had to be done, even if no one really wanted to do them. I know you think like that, and it is true that he cleaned up more than one mess, but still, his ethics aren't really my thing. Never will be, either. But why did you call for me? I needed to talk with you, Hiruzen sighed. There are some things I need to give you. He started rummaging in one of the drawers of his desk. And some apologies I have to make. Why would you? I am dying, Asuma. The poison Orochimaru used against me wasn't something that could be cured. Not even by Tsunade. Asuma slumped down in one of the vacant chairs and stared down at the ground. How long? He asked, after a few moments of silence. At best, a week or two, Hiruzen saw his son flinch from the brutally honest answer. But truth be told, I will die sooner than that. But that isn't really a problem. When you've lived as long as I did, you have long since accepted death. At least, not after the life I've led. The idea of me dying isn't half as bad as having seen so many others die before me. For me it is just duty. Dad, you can't just say it is your duty to die, Asuma protested. And why would you? Your brother and his wife, and Bawako, losing them hurt me far more than a little poison ever could. It still hurts, every waking moment, even though I have accepted their deaths by now. What happened to Ni-san wasn't your. They killed him in order to hurt me. And they would have targeted Konohamaru too, had he been there that night. Hiruzen's voice got some steel in it. The worst thing that could happen to anyone is losing their children. That is why I made my mistakes with you. I know it is too late for me to be the father I was supposed to be, and for that I am sorry, Asuma. But after your brother was assassinated, I feared for your safety. That fear clouded my judgment, and was the reason why I didn't want you to join the Guardian Ninja. I couldn't bear the thought of losing another son. But I know now that I should have considered your feelings, rather than my own. I made a mistake, and for that I am sorry. All I can hope is that you would not make the same mistake as I did. When you and Kurenai get children, he smiled gently, though the regret in the old man's eyes was obvious to Asuma. I suppose those are my greatest regrets now, Hiruzen continued. That I cannot see you and Kurenai marry. That I cannot see you raise a family. That I cannot see Konohamaru become the fine man I am convinced he will be. Dad, I know why you tried to stop me back then. I understand it, Asuma hesitated. It took me a while, but eventually I realized, I was selfish too. After brother, I just wanted to get away from here. I was a coward, a fool, I tried to run away but I left you when you needed me most. You do not need to be so harsh for yourself, Asuma. It is me who should apologize for not listening to you. If I had been a good father, like I should have been, I would have helped you deal with your pain. But I couldn't deal with my own. And in my foolishness I put all my energy into leading the village, even though I should have been there for you. And though I know it is too late, I never apologized for it. I thought that it was something I needed to say before I leave this world. For both our sakes, so that we both have some closure, because I saw you were blaming yourself, even though there was no reason to do so. Originally, I had planned to talk about this when you were settled down, because I feared that if I made a mistake again, but it is pointless to talk about, what if, under the current circumstances. I know I am running out of time. That is also why I have to give you this. He handed Asuma a very old-looking scroll. Opening it, Asuma felt his heart beat somewhere midway his throat. Dad, is this? For all these years, I kept this for you. Hiruzen nodded, smiling gently upon seeing his son's shocked expression. I must admit I did not have the opportunity to discuss it with him, as I no longer have the strength to summon him, but I am sure Enma will agree with my judgment. But the summoning contract. Promise me one thing. Pass the contract on to Konohamaru when he is old enough. I will. But this means that you are the head of the Sarutobi clan now, yes. That is our clan's tradition. Ever since you returned after you served the daimyo, I saw how you have changed, and how you continued to change. I saw how you slowly rebuilt your relationship with Kurenai-chan, how you became an excellent sensei. I should have given you this sooner, but I didn't want to burden you too much. I wanted you to enjoy your life with some semblance of freedom, rather than being burdened with responsibilities. Hey, you're not still trying to bind me to the village, are you? Asuma chuckled. I don't need to. Kurenai will do that for me. And if she doesn't, your students would. You chose this, Asuma, which is why I felt I could pass this on to you without feeling like I was burdening you. Though, I presume that attending the council meetings will be a less pleasurable way to spend your time. But at least I know you would help Jiraiya where you can. As long as our Hokage isn't going to try and change regulations around bathhouses, I think our Godime will manage, with or without me, Asuma snorted. As soon as he drops his act of playing the perverted fool. You know, I encountered him several times during my time with the daimyo, and I know full well how wise that man really is. Wise enough to not want to lead, Hiruzen chuckled. He is definitely the best choice to lead the village right now. At least, until Naruto-kun is ready. You still hold that much faith in the boy. Did you ever hear Konohamaru talk about him? It is hard to ignore. But for you to say he could become the next Hokage, Asuma frowned. He is strong, I'll give him that, but he seems to struggle to keep the Kyuubi under control. He's dangerous. Those problems will be solved. But unlike that, the way the village treats him isn't something I can change. That is why I would ask you to help him whenever you can. But knowing you, you would already do such a thing. You were never someone who could bear injustice. Hiruzen gave him a wry smile. Even if it came from your old man. You have always been, and will always remain, the most insufferable stubborn man I know, Asuma sighed. And the worst thing is that Kurenai keeps saying I'm exactly like you. Hiruzen laughed. No, you have more of your mother's patience in you, something which Kurenai should be thankful for. Asuma smiled, but Hiruzen could see that his son was sad. Don't be too concerned about me. Tsunade made an antidote which keeps me from feeling too much pain. I know it is easy for me to say, but don't be too sad about it. Will you at least stay at home now, and quit all this ridiculous Hokage stuff? Jiraiya will take over now, so you should rest a little. Spend time with Konohamaru. With us, you should at least make your final days enjoyable. I have one last thing that I need to do, but until that day comes, yes, I will remain at home. I do not expect Konohamaru to understand, but he at least deserves to know the truth from me. Someone told me that secrets, even if they are kept in order to protect those you care about, still can cause a lot of pain. And I don't want to cause you, Konohamaru, or Kurenai any more pain than I have already done due to my stubborn refusal to abandon my post. You did what you thought was best, Dad. That's one thing I always admired in you, no matter how I opposed it at times. I'd almost forget. Asuma stood up from his chair. Kurenai and I made a bet. Before the exams, Hiruzen frowned a little when he saw his son's bashful attitude. And her students did better than mine, so I kinda lost that bet. What did you get yourself into? Well, the loser had to make the first move, Asuma grinned. So, I asked her to marry me. Hiruzen had been expecting a lot, but this, the Hokage who had experienced so much throughout the years, was left speechless for a full minute. He knew his son well enough to realize that such a move was not like Asuma at all. Way out of his son's comfort zone. I thought you'd like to know. That's why I wanted this appointment. Asuma scratched the back of his head, embarrassed by the way his father was staring at him. Though, I suppose we have to reschedule things a bit now, because you have to be there with us, Dad. Congratulations, Hiruzen rasped, wiping away the tears that flowed over his cheeks. I'd be honored to attend. It seems I have even more to thank Naruto-kun for now. Well, Shikamaru made it a close one, Asuma grinned. But I've never been so glad to lose, trust me. Now, let me help you gather your stuff, and then I'll take you home. Kurenai and I will make you the best Takawasa dinner you've ever had. I'd love to. Though please be moderate with the spices, Hiruzen smiled. My stomach is rather sensitive. But I would prefer to let my final days be joyous, rather than sad. I know it must be hard for you to accept it, but I am at peace with my fate. Yeah, Dad, I know you'd say that. Just don't expect me to listen. The serious look in Asuma's eyes was completely at odds with the smile below, but Hiruzen knew that it would be pointless to continue arguing about this. After all, if Asuma had been indifferent about this, Hiruzen knew he would have been hurt a lot more. At least Asuma worked hard to give his father a few peaceful days, regardless how he felt about it himself. I suppose I should convince them to hold a proper celebration of their marriage later on. I don't want their day to be overshadowed by my fate. I suppose I could talk Jiraiya and Tsunade into arranging some more appropriate. Besides, with the Schedule 1 created with Jiraiya, there are only a handful of days left. It would be impossible for Asuma and Kurenai to hold a proper ceremony in that short time frame. Asuma saw the concerned frown on his father's weary face. Come on, Dad, I'm a grown man now. Stop worrying about me, will you? We will worry about you, not the other way around. A father will never stop worrying about his children. You wouldn't be you if wouldn't counter everything I have to say, Asuma sighed. Let's clear that desk of yours, and head home. Bonus. A Senju's money. On their way home from their daily portion of chaos, she and her merry band of mischievous cats passed by a human drinking establishment where something dangerous growled. Let's not go in. Zero knew that look in Chi's eyes all too well by now. Then again, her curiosity was really dangerous at times. I'm only taking a peek at what might cause that unholy sound, Chi smirked. The bartender didn't know what to do. Here they were, two of the most famous shinobi Konohagakure ever produced, and they were both drunk as a lord. Then again, after the conversation that led to Jiraiya accepting the position of Hokage, the Toad Sage had been eager to just drink everything away. And Tsunade had no problem with joining him in that. Passed out, the two Sannin had ended their drinking contest in a draw. Not surprisingly either, considering how Tsunade had spent most of her day here anyway. His helpers looked at him for guidance, but the middle-aged man honestly did not know what to do. Tsunade was well known for her excessive behavior when really drunk, so disturbing her seemed rather risky. And Jiraiya seemed to be a particularly foul mood too, so the man didn't know, so he just shrugged at his helpers. Let them sleep for now, mop around them, hopefully one of them wakes up before we have to close, he sighed. At least, that was the plan. A black and white cat hopped through the window, and before the bartender could chase the creature away, it jumped at the Senju. And ran off with her wallet. Sandaime-sama, you called for us. Kurenai bowed to the old Hokage. Yes. I have mission for the four of you. A rather delicate mission, the old and tired man sighed. The Jonin and her three genin looked a bit surprised. Tsunade is on a rampage, after a cat stole her wallet. I want you to calm her down and retrieve the wallet. Cat, oh, no, Kiba grimaced. It's that crazy Bakeneko again, isn't it? Akamaru whined, already knowing that Kiba had guessed right. The Sandaime nodded slowly, and looked at Karen. Can you get Naruto-kun to stop that mischievous cat? Barely restraining her laughter, Karen had a much better idea. I'll tell Akko-san and Anko-san, she smirked deviously. They'll know what to do. She never learns, Hinata sighed. Be careful when you approach Tsunade though, she has had a few bottles of sake too many, the wrinkled Hokage grimaced. Meanwhile, Jiraiya woke up, dragged by his ankle by Tsunade who apparently had the furious intention to use him as a baseball bat. It was not that Tsunade could hit the nimble cat in her intoxicated condition, but the misses would hurt too. This must be the worst hangover in the history of mankind, Jiraiya whimpered. Chapter 50. Secrets. Damn it kid, how many of those scrolls did you unlock? Jiraiya gasped. Standing in Naruto's study room, he literally saw no table at all. Everything was buried underneath a pile of books and scrolls. Kage Bunshin used to speed things up quite a bit, Naruto shrugged. Though I'm going to have to move my stuff to a bigger place soon, it's getting quite cramped here. And Akko wanted to clean out this spare bedroom, so I guess I should take all this stuff to the mask storage temple, the blonde mused. But how are you progressing with the new design for Gaara's seal? I got 3 variants. They should be ready by this afternoon. I'll bring them over, so you can check them for any flaws. You already showed them to Gamazu. The old toad is thrilled to create new seals. Old as he may be, he acted as jolly as a tadpole, Naruto smirked. But I must ask, why do I suddenly have to rush like this? We can't keep Gaara here forever, can we? Jiraiya evaded giving the real answer, something which wasn't noticed by Naruto. He was too engrossed by his mountain of scrolls. Jiraiya did frown upon seeing one particular, partly opened, scroll, though. Is he actually planning to? Right. Naruto sounded a bit disappointed, ignoring the suddenly pale Sannin. Jiraiya coughed, and regained his composure. You really came to like the kid, didn't you? He's like me. In more than one way, Naruto shrugged. I'd say he is family. My brother. He understands who I am, and I understand who he is. Quote. I suppose it would be useful if soon as Jinchuriki would be friendly towards Konoha, Jiraiya mused. You're actually beginning to sound like a proper Hokage now. Perhaps I should drop the Hokage title. Naruto chuckled. Though, I heard from Ba-chan about the reforms you wanted at the bookstores. Hey, I just wanted the people to enjoy more quality literature. You just wanted to boost your latest perverted books sales, Hokage. Naruto scoffed. Did you talk with Iruka-sensei by the way? He seemed capable enough, though I must admit I never really noticed him before. Jiraiya knew protesting against his new nickname was pointless. Though he would never admit that he actually thought that perverted shadow was the best nickname he had received in decades. Though, he wouldn't allow anyone but Naruto to call him like that. Well, except for Tsunade, perhaps. If she was in his bedroom. Without clothes. With a bottle of sake between her large. Focus, Jiraiya, focus. The newly elected Hokage wiped away some blood from underneath his nose. Iruka seems trustworthy. Turn, although a little naive perhaps. But if he passed your sense for malice without any issues, he couldn't be a bad guy. I bet he was pretty tense, Naruto sighed. It isn't just a job to him, Hokage. If he gets the job, he could have a chance at dating the girl he loves. Being the right hand of the Hokage gets him higher on the social ladder than just being a teacher, so for him that little talk was pretty important. Ah, girl problems, Jiraiya smirked. And he seemed such a dullard. Who is the lucky girl? You met Akko-chan, didn't you? Anko. Jiraiya exclaimed. Akko. Not Anko. Thank heavens for that, Naruto laughed. Anko would destroy him. Akko can be worse, Jiraiya mumbled. Far worse. Your attempt at peeking on Hyuga women was a rather stupid thing to do. You brought that on yourself, pervert. Guess I have to take Iruka in now, Jiraiya chuckled, deliberately ignoring Naruto's reprimand. Perhaps she'd finally let go of that grudge if I did that, perhaps she'll finally stop glaring at me like that. Doubtful. Pessimist. Pervert. Super pervert, Jiraiya huffed. In front of the Uzumaki compound's living quarters, Namiyashi Rado stared at clouded skies. While the Hokage was talking to the boy Rado had sworn to protect, he could do little more than guard the front of the building. A rather pointless occupation, considering the barriers that surrounded the compound, but still, he had no idea what else to do. Much to his irritation, however, he was approached without him even noticing a thing. You look bored, Scarface Two-Leg. She blinked when she saw him draw his black blade, Kokudo. Correction. Not bored, but jumpy, the cat chuckled. Did Crazy Snake's Two-Leg finally push you over the edge? Don't startle people like that, cat, Rado grumbled. You know, Crazy Snake's Two-Leg is actually rather funny when properly pranked. The Tokubetsu Jonin's scarred face twisted into a grimace. You aren't trying to involve me in one of your crazy pranks, are you? Akko-san was rather expressive about that. What? She feigned innocence. I'm only offering a temporary alliance. You don't have to do anything naughty. I would never ever suggest such a thing. You are far too uptight for such things. Though perhaps she wouldn't mind it if you got naughty. Shut your mouth. Then why do you react like that when Crazy Snake's two legs shows off her body to tease you? That's none of your business. She smirked when she saw the faint blush on the man's face. I suppose you're not as boring as I initially feared, Scarface two-leg. I'm doing my duty, Rado huffed. Unlike certain people. Should I take that as permission to pester Crazy Snake's two-leg? Quote, comma, quote. Ha, I saw it. You can smile, she exclaimed. Only for a fraction of a second, the corner of his mouth had twitched. But Chi's keen eyes had seen it. Good, then I'll make the preparations. Before Rado could say a thing, the long-tailed black and white cat jumped away. Pay attention, pup. Hyuga barely got the time to dodge his mother's fist that followed after those words. Mum, cut me some slack, will you? You haven't gotten any faster lately, Hyuga, she huffed, yet still she allowed her son to catch his breath. How could you know? Hyuga deadpanned. Every time you drag me out here for training, I'm already exhausted. He and his mother stood at a training ground within their clan's grounds. This training ground was a private one, a place where they could pass their techniques down to the next generation. Every clan which relied on their clan's secret techniques, hidden, rather than bloodline limits, keke required such facilities. After all, if anyone outside the Inuzuka clan saw how their techniques worked, these techniques could be stolen. Sure, it still would require a vast amount of data before anyone would manage to replicate the techniques which the Inuzuka had perfected for generations, but it was still possible. Unlike most keke, which were practically impossible to replicate for anyone who did not have that specific blood in their veins. I bet you're just showing off in front of that red-haired girl, aren't you? Soom smirked. Mum. Hyuga whined. Though he was glad he had enough sand and dirt on his face to hide his embarrassment. Not a bad catch though, the girl certainly seems to have some backbone. And Akamaru seems to like her as well. She bribed Akamaru, Hyuga groaned. Soom whistled, clearly impressed. She managed to get between you and Akamaru. I'm growing to like this girl more and more. Why doesn't that surprise me? She can be damn scary at times. Even better. Any woman should be able to make her man piss his pant, Soom barked in laughter. No mum, men shouldn't be terrified of their wives. Just look at how dad ran off. Hyuga grimaced. Though I'll have to teach her how to limit her pheromones a little. If she wants to live at your side we can't have her being such an open book to anyone with our clan's nose. I mean, last time she was here, half the clan agreed that you two should. Stop deciding things for me, damn it. I'm only freaking 13 years old and you're trying to wed your own son off already. We're shinobi, Soom grinned, enjoying teasing her flustered son far too much to stop already. We live fast and die young. So, I'd rather see you get some pups of your own while I'm still around. Though you better not have the gall to call me a boss-san, you hear? PP pups. Mum. Stop this madness. Hyuga's face was now bright red, no matter how much dirt had gotten on it when Soom smacked him around the training ground. In fact, the markings on his cheeks weren't even half as red as his face was right now. As you wish, Soom shrugged. But that means you should get on your feet, because we are continuing our training. Hyuga groaned when he picked himself up from the ground. Every muscle in his body screamed, but he knew that asking his mother to stop would only make her train him harsher. Besides, he had gotten a deep respect for the determination Naruto had shown. Sure, Hyuga had not particularly liked the Uzumaki during their time at the academy, and the way he had replaced Shino had not fallen well with Hyuga either, but somewhere along the line that dislike had changed into respect. Fear had been replaced by understanding, though Hyuga was still man enough to admit that the Kyuubi terrified him. Hyuga knew that he too had to show such an determination if he wanted to get strong like that. And Hyuga knew that he needed to get stronger. If the exams have shown me one thing, it would be that I am still too weak. Without Naruto, we might as well have failed the second stage of the exam. My loss against Sasuke, even though I finally was able to match him at taijutsu, showed me that I am still nothing special as a genin, considering he is far better at ninjutsu. And if I had faced a freak like that Rock Lee, or even Neji or Hinata. Never mind that, I would have been too weak for the third stage anyway. Even though Kurenai-sensei said that both Hinata and I could have been promoted if there weren't so many crazy people participating at the exam, I still feel far too weak. I know I can't compare myself to a Jinchuriki, but still, I will train myself to a state of near death if need be, but I will get stronger. The feral grin on his mother's face nearly made his determination falter though. Kurenai-sensei is putting Karen through hell. Mum is torturing me. I sure hope you have better luck than we do, Hinata. He mumbled. You have gotten faster. Kurenai smiled, as Karen picked herself up from the ground and patted the dust from her clothes. Perhaps I'm a bit less sluggish, Karen grumbled. I'm still far too slow. Now, don't be such a pessimist, the Jonin chided her new student. You shouldn't compare yourself with Hinata and Kiba too much. They are both the taijutsu type of shinobi, unlike you. Perhaps, but what type am I, sensei? Well, you're a better sensor than any other genin I've ever met. I think that with a little training, you could even be a better sensor than the vast majority of Konoha's jonin. And the rate at which you recover your stamina, as well as your healing abilities in general, seem far above usual too. Perhaps this is something related to the Uzumaki clan, I do not know for sure, I can't say I am an expert on such matters, Kurenai contemplated. With your sensory ability I would say you would function better as a mid or long range fighter, rather than at close range. Ranged. Karen frowned. But the team. Kiba is a brawler, and Hinata is a Hyuga and thus also completely focuses on close range combat. If you could cover the areas at which they are weak, it would improve the overall teamwork, right? I suppose. Be a little more confident, Karen. After we improve your stamina and chakra reserves to decent levels, I was thinking of seeing how you would do with Genjutsu, the Genjutsu mistress smiled. I certainly hope that at least one of my students would have some affinity for my specialization. I will try, sensei. Illusions. Red Hair Two Legs should try something that complements her ability as a sensor better. Perhaps she should try those stick throwers which those non-shinobi combat two legs seem to like. Karen and Kurenai saw Chi jumping down the tree next to the living quarters, after which the black and white cat calmly treaded towards the small open field which they were using for their taijutsu spar. Kyujutsu. Kurenai mused. Unconventional, but not even such a crazy idea. Kyufut. You mean bow techniques. That's for common foot soldiers, not for a shinobi. Karen exclaimed. Arrows could carry sealing tags could become your specialism, Whisker Sister Two Leg. And with her sensory ability improving her precision, combined with her weakness at close range combat, Kurenai followed the feline's train of thought. Yes, that could be a good idea. Though, you would have to train a lot to get your precision to a level that you could fight properly beyond mid-range. Then again, with Hinata in the same team, you could actually be a great sniper, as she would be the perfect spotter. Karen did not seem to be very convinced. What about the Genjutsu idea, sensei? The more skills a shinobi masters, the more versatile you will be, Kurenai smirked. Didn't you notice that with Naruto? He uses ninjutsu and taijutsu to cover the weaknesses of his fuinjutsu. And unlike Kiba and Hinata, you two aren't completely rusted in clan traditions, so it is my responsibility to teach you as many things as I possibly can. After all, a person can never have enough knowledge. I shouldn't compare myself to Kiba-kun and Hinata, but now you compare me to Ni-san. Karen asked incredulously. Sensei, none of us are even close to his level. Whisker Two Leg is more fragile than you humans think. She was completely serious for a change. You are a sensor, Red Two Leg. Tell me, how do you see his chakra? Ni-san's chakra. Karen blinked. Well, it is. When he is calm, it just makes me dazzle. It is just so comfortable and relaxed, simply because of the warmth it radiates. But he keeps that side of him hidden, as if tries to shield himself from everyone. But at times I can see how bright his chakra actually is, though that other chakra, the Kyuubi's, is completely different. It is evil, vast and terrifying, she agreed. Kurenai sighed, grimacing as she blamed herself for being powerless to help Naruto in his struggle against the Biju. She tried, but it was like talking to a stone wall. Only Hinata and Gaara seemed to be able to reach him, only they seemed to be allowed to go past his mental barriers. And Gaara had enough issues of his own already. Dusty Two Legs seems worried about him as well. Whisker Two Legs' own chakra is increasingly muddled with the demon's chakra. He can be scary at times, Karen admitted. When I first met him, I thought he was going to kill me. She recalled how he had looked at her, in the forest of death during the Chunin exams. Even Kiba-kun admitted that Nisan scares him. But I know Hinata is right. Naruto Nisan is troubled, but underneath it all he is a great person. For a two-leg, she chuckled. He is the only family I have, Karen glared at the cat. So don't you dare to mock my brother, you hear? Isn't the huge-breasted drunk two-leg your family too? Tsunade-sama is the granddaughter of an Uzumaki, yes. But I still cannot believe that I am related to one of the greatest kunoichi who ever lived, Karen admitted somewhat shyly. You should see it as proof that you could reach greatness too. Kurenai patted her student on the head, actually putting the unruly red hair a bit back in model. If you are related to her, you could perhaps one day be just as strong. The skeptical look on Karen's face did nothing to hamper the Jonin's enthusiasm. Although I hope you will stay away from alcohol, unlike Tsunade-sama. You look tired, Hinata-chan. Hitomi carefully observed her daughter as she took her seat. Kurenai-sensei had a few exercises for us, Hinata admitted. Since Karen-san replaced Naruto-kun after his promotion, we need to rebalance the team, or so Kurenai-sensei said. I understand. Naruto-kun did offer a lot of firepower to your team. How is Karen-san adjusting? Her sensory ability is very good, but her combat ability is. Hinata didn't really want to criticize her new teammate. Though she kept quiet about what really troubled her, Naruto's strangely distant behavior. She didn't understand why, but after the conversation they had, and his episode with the Kyuubi, he had become more distant to everyone. What did the Kyuubi mean by saying she didn't understand Naruto? Hinata didn't know why he kept himself away from others, why he was so silent. She knew he was hiding something. But he never answered any of her questions. And his secretive attitude worried her even more. As much faith as she had in him, she wished she could do something to help him. Anything. And Gaara's persistent worried frown did not help much either. I guess Kurenai-san will have her work cut out for her then, Hitomi smiled gently. Hinata, do you recall how the caged bird seal was created? Hitomi switched to her lecturing voice, as she started today's training with her eldest daughter. The ancestor of the main house altered the seal that protected the Byakugan from being stolen, and altered into a means to control the majority of the clan. That way, he could take control of the clan and let it join Konoha shortly after it was founded. Hinata had read the true history of her clan very well. Indeed, Haruki went to great lengths to collect that information, and I completed most of the details of it myself. But do you know why the seal was named that way? No, mother. Do you know why my way of thinking is so deviant within our clan? Hinata shook her head. And why my insight is so much better? Empathy, Hinata replied, replicating what her mother taught her. True insight requires empathy, or one will never understand the other's emotions. That is why our clan's logic fails. True insight, the true ability of our Byakugan, requires emotional intelligence, and not logic. As such, we must master our own emotions. Do you think that anyone can truly control their emotions? Hitomi frowned. Control is merely an illusion. And illusions hamper our sight. Just as the lust for power. Speaking about that, do you know how the Hyuga clan elected their clan head prior joining Konoha? It was different from now. Hinata guessed, knowing that her mother would not ask such a thing if it had been the same as it was now. Indeed it was, Hitomi agreed. She laid down a scroll on the table between them. Both Hyuga women sat on the comfortable chairs Hitomi liked so much. This was her personal study, after all. This is the eldest of our clan's treasures. Hinata frowned. Sure, the scroll looked old, but it didn't seem to qualify as treasure. Even with her Byakugan activated for an instant, Hinata saw nothing particularly special about it. Although, she vaguely remembered some of the stories her mother had told her when she was younger. It is the summoning our clan is bound to, Hitomi explained. To return to the subject of the election of the clan's leader, this is how our leader was chosen. Only the ones deemed worthy to lead our clan could sign the summoning contract. A bird, Hinata deduced, as her mother her explicitly talked about the caged bird seal earlier. And not any bird. The scroll has been kept by the main house ever since the coup. And since that day no one could summon the Suzaku. It refused our call. As such, the scroll was stored away. Until I found it. Suzaku. Yes, that is the name of the creature, the vermilion bird. It hails from the time when the sage of the six paths taught humanity how to use chakra. Though, I advise you never to call her old. She is a bit touchy on that subject. But, if you know this, mother, does that mean I lack the power to summon the Suzaku completely, Hitomi admitted. But yes, I can summon a fragment of her power. That is why I know more about our true history than most others, even though the time after the coup has long been a mystery to me, at least until Haruki found the answers we sought. But she is also the reason why I was able to master the true insight of the Byakugan. It was taught to me by Suzaku-sama. Though she only agreed to do so if I kept it a secret. That is, until I found a suitable heir for my position as our clan's summoner. Hinata's eyes spurred open. Yes, Hinata. I wish to test if you can summon Suzaku-sama, Hitomi smiled gently. I think you are ready. And you possess more chakra than I do, so perhaps you can succeed where I failed. After all, I was never much of a shinobi. Apart from my insight, that is. But Suzaku-sama doesn't assess people based on their strength, only on their character. After all, she would teach those who she allowed to summon her, and these secrets were what made her summoner so powerful. Powerful, to the extent that he or she would be the ruler of our clan. But chakra, it is not. I am not. Suzaku-sama values peace and prosperity above all. It seeks out those who are loyal, honest, and just. She seeks those who value knowledge over brute force, understanding rather than conflict. That is why I am confident that she will approve of you, Hinata. That is why I train you, rather than Hanabi, who chose to follow your father's views of strength. I will try my best. But there is one more thing. It is why our cursed seal was named the caged bird seal. Ever since the coup, Suzaku-sama refused to be summoned, stating that the Hyuga violated the contract the moment the coup took place wherein part of the clan was subdued with the cursed seal. She is disgusted by what our ancestors have done. To what the branch house has formed into. When I was a young girl, I accidentally stumbled upon this scroll. My father kept it, but as it was more or less considered worthless, it wasn't stashed away as securely as it should have been. I was young and naive, not much older than you are now, and perhaps that is why Suzaku-sama chose to heed my call after so many years of refusing to see our clan. She seemed to know that I would change. She educated me in secret, showed me the wrongs of our clan, improved my skill. Mother, without Suzaku-sama, would you have been like everyone else in the main house? Hinata was confused, as she could not imagine her mother to be as the others from the main house. Hitomi was so different from the regular cold and logical Hyuga archetype, that Hinata could not imagine her mother to have turned out like that too. It seems likely. I was young and naive, but my head was filled with the ideas that my parents taught me from when I was but a little girl, Hitomi admitted. Suzaku-sama corrected my way of thinking. My conflicting ideas about our clan's path originate from her teachings. The quest to liberate the branch is a direct consequence of the information she gave me. And you raised me in such a way that fitted with her teachings. No. Hitomi laughed for a moment. No. You were always gentle and kind, Hinata. A deviation in the cold and strict main house, so to say. I only had to protect and nurture that natural kindness of yours. To encourage you when you needed encouragement. To keep your heart open, to prevent that you would cast away your emotions for the sake of logic. Though I must admit that Naruto-kun also did a lot of that work for me, Hitomi teased her daughter. Mother. Don't worry about it, Hitomi smiled knowingly. Considering how he carries his burdens, I would say that Naruto-kun is indeed a person worthy of admiration. Though, I agree with my late cousin in that he needs help. Your idea of his birthday party was a good one in showing him that he is not alone. Yet the incident with Sasuke-san. That was not your fault, nor was it the fault of Naruto-kun. The Uchiha boy should not have attacked. As far as I'm concerned, Naruto-kun did his duty at guarding the children from Sunagaku. Although I must admit that the injuries he inflicted were a bit severe, even though Uchiha-san brought that on himself. But he will recover soon enough, so let's return to the topic of today's lesson, shall we? Yes, mother, Hinata nodded, looking at the scroll which held the summoning contract. The Kuchio's no jutsu requires the following hand seals, Hitomi lectured. Boar, dog, bird, monkey, and ram. You have that. Boar, dog, bird, monkey, and ram, Hinata repeated. I shall demonstrate. Kuchio's no jutsu, Hitomi calmly said, though she focused most of her chakra into the jutsu. In a small puff of white smoke, a small bird appeared. The bird was about as large as a kite. Reaching about 30 centimeters in length, the bird was covered in a plumage of various hues of vermilion. Despite its relatively small size, Hinata found the creature remarkably elegant and noble. And the aura it radiated was impressive as well, to the extent that Hinata held her breath as its bright and intelligent eyes turned towards her. Hitomi-chan, the bird's voice was like a woman whispering in the wind. The bird's beak remained shut, yet it somehow spoke. Though the whispering voice was a bit scary in Hinata's opinion, ghost-like almost, Suzaku sounded actually quite peaceful and friendly. You summoned me in front of another. Yes, Suzaku-sama, Hitomi nodded ever so slightly. This is Hinata, my daughter. Ah, yes, you spoke of her before, your eldest. Is she already prepared? I explained her how you taught me, Suzaku-sama. Taught. I merely offered my views. You altered your views out of your own accordance. I did not teach. Yet you showed me the errors of our clan. The errors of my own ways. Because I knew you would be receptive for it, you always had better eyes than the others of this foolish main house. The bird's voice sounded a little annoyed by the notion of the houses. But I assume you want to know if I allow your daughter to summon me. Yes, Suzaku-sama. Hinata is my eldest daughter, and heir to our clan. Ah yes, this foolish heritage thing the clan now has, Suzaku sighed. As if it matter who your parents are, it should be ability and personality, which determine whether someone is fit to rule or not birth. Tell me, child, what do you think of your clan? Hitomi nodded, encouraging her daughter to speak her mind. Hitomi knew full well that Hinata had to speak from her own heart, because Suzaku would not agree with any dishonesty. I do not like my clan, Hinata hesitated. Why not? Speak. I cannot see who you are if you keep hiding yourself. The Hyuga clan, my father and the main clan, they focus too much on logic. On strength. It led to the suppression of the branch house, and the injustice that gives the main house its power. That is what your mother taught you, but what do you believe? I think the Hyuga clan is a cold and harsh place. And what would you do about that? Hinata blinked. I am most likely not the clan's heir for much longer. That is not what I ax. I would remove the caged bird seal. Free Neji Nisan, and all the other from the branch, Hinata admitted. Though, I would hope to find a way in which the branch and main houses don't attack each other. I fear that freeing the branch right now would only cause more chaos. Your desire towards peace and justice is truthful. It was not a question. It was a conclusion Suzaku drew based on what she had seen. And she always saw everything. Even Hitomi's considerable skill paled in comparison to the centuries of experience Suzaku had. The bird hopped forward, and pecked Hinata on her finger with its sharp beak. Sign the contract with your blood. Hitomi felt like she could breathe again. She qualified. Thank Kami she did. Shot through her mind. Yes, she believed in her daughter, but at the same time she knew that Suzaku was a rather elusive creature. Elusive to her understanding, at least. In all the years, the bird never ceased to surprise Hitomi. As such, Hitomi had no idea what to expect from today. But she approved. Suzaku-sama accepted Hinata with far more ease than she did me. I am allowed to sign. Hinata gasped. Thank you, Suzaku-sama. She quickly bowed to the vermilion bird. You hold promise. Your power is likely to surpass Himoti-chan's, and if what she said is true, your insight will be superior as well, Suzaku startled Hinata. While I would have preferred you to be a little less hesitant, you hold all the qualities I seek in a leader of the Hyuga clan. Even in the days before Konoha, you would have been a good person that would qualify for my training. It seems like this is one of the rare cases where the mother does not give her child too much praise, she added with a hint of amusement in her gentle voice. Thank you, Suzaku-sama, Hinata blushed due to the compliment. But know this. Signing the contract also means that you swear a blood oath to keep all my teachings a secret, unless I allow you to spread them, and in that case only to those who I agree that they deserve such knowledge. Any knowledge about me is kept a secret. Any knowledge about the true history of the Hyuga clan is kept a secret. The only exceptions are if you are preparing your heir, like your mother did with you, or if I approve of the person you wish to tell this secret. But this secret is best kept if as few people as possible are aware of it. If it leaked out that you signed the summoning contract, the consequences would be disastrous. Suzaku was completely serious. She knew that this was extremely important to the young heiress, as the significance of her teachings was great enough to draw unwanted attention to. Suzaku had seen it happen before, that the heir she had chosen for the clan was murdered before he or she could complete the training Suzaku gave. I promise. Good. Then for the coming years, you must prepare yourself for harsh training. Unlike Hitomi-chan, I think you might be able to master my techniques. But it will be a long road to travel. I will not spare you in any way. So your first task will be to find the resolve needed for such an undertaking. Strengthen your heart, young and gentle daughter of Hamura. The bird spread her wings, and vanished in a bright flash of flames. Hitomi dropped her composure, and rushed forward to hug her daughter. Uncharacteristically as it may be, Hitomi was too proud to keep herself restrained. This show of emotion actually made Hinata more aware of how crucial this moment had been. You did great today, Hinata, her mother smiled widely at her. Now, what do you say, shall we go out to buy some new clothes? It's been far too long since we did that with just the two of us. Know what, I'll even buy you something with a more narrow fit. I'm sure that will attract Naruto-kun's attention. Mother. Hinata squeaked. Hitomi winked, showing her deeply embarrassed daughter that she had merely been joking. Well, for now, at least. She frowned. She never saw her sister and her mother act like this. First they spent half of the day cooped up in a room where even her Byakugan could somehow not look, and then the two of them were actually laughing while carrying multiple bags with what appeared to be newly bought clothes. Why would her mother of all people be so cheerful when doing work that was better suited for servants? Hanabi's 7-year-old mind could not process that fact. Her mother, the person within her clan who carried the most significance after her father, performed tasks like a common servant. Is this why father said that mother is sometimes a bit strange? I wonder why he said that was normal for a mother though. Knowing full well that it would be pointless to stalk her mother, even father reluctantly admitted that her mother's sight with the Byakugan was beyond his own. But her failure of a sister was a different matter. Even someone as low as a branch family member could beat her. So following her without being detected would not be a big problem. Hinata wasn't like that cat. Hanabi hated to admit it, but even when she teamed up with Konohamaru, with the utmost reluctance of both of them, they had been unable to trap the talking creature. In fact, the only time they came close, she, the monkey, and his two minions, were attacked by a horde of cats. Hanabi still counted herself lucky that the peeing one had attacked Konohamaru, and not her. He had reeked for days. In fact, she still refused to come too close to his blue scarf, knowing where the majority of the liquid had gone. And with how the long-tailed talking cat had laughed, the entire situation had certainly not been a coincidence. I can't let myself get distracted by those atrocious cats. I have to figure out why mother prefers spending time with Hinata-nisan. Unfortunately for Hyuga Hanabi, her stealth skills were not nearly as good as she thought they were. Well, our Hinata was just a whole lot better than her rather arrogant younger sister believed her to be. Fact was that she saw her sister following her from the very moment she had entered the compound. To some, this kind of behavior might have been enough to respond with at least mild annoyance, but Hyuga Hinata had always been patient with her sister. Too patient, perhaps. But perhaps, she knew she still had to get used to all these things her mother taught her, and now Suzaku would throw even more knowledge at her. But Hinata felt like, even though she could not do so directly, perhaps she could guide her sister back to the old ways of their clan. Away from the obsession with power Hanabi shared with their father, and towards the way the Hyuga were supposed to be. I know you are there, Imo-Udo-chan, Hinata sighed after she had entered her own bedroom. She put the bag with her brand new cream-colored hooded jacket on her bed. While Hitomi had spent some time teasing her daughter by suggesting more revealing Clothing, they had eventually settled for this jacket, along with navy blue pant. They were not nearly as baggy as her old clothing, but Hitomi had joked that Naruto would certainly be cheered up if he saw Hinata in this. Sadly, the shop attendant had thought Hinata had been sick, unaware that the brightly glowing blush was a normal occurrence for Hinata. With a scowl, Hanabi popped her head around the door. You knew. Of course, Hinata remained patient. It is not really nice to follow someone like that, Hanabi-chan. And I am sure father explained the laws about improper usage of the Byakugan too. She revealed that she knew that Hanabi had used her Byakugan to keep an eye on her. Then you used it too. I did not. Then how can you know I did? Hanabi huffed. Karen-san says that there are many ways to sense when another person uses chakra, Hinata smiled. It grated Hanabi even more that her older sister calmly smiled like that. Exactly like mother. But, even though it was only formally at this point, Hinata was still the heir of their clan. So Hanabi had no choice but to bow and offer her apologies. And whatever punishment that her sister deemed necessary. Not that Hinata ever punished anyone. That's one of the reasons why Hanabi knew she could get away with stalking her sister, even if she got caught. It was her weakness. There is no need for apologies, Hinata kept smiling, although she did begin to frown. Hanabi noticed that this frown occurred at the exact moment when she was thinking about how weak her older sister was. Can she read my mind? Like mother. I take it you were curious why mother and I went shopping. Hanabi suddenly felt naked under her sister's guise. How could Hinata pinpoint the exact feeling she had? How do you know? A older sister is supposed to know such things, Hinata laughed when her younger sister pouted. Sorry, but mother has been teasing me so much, I guess I rubbed off on me. Why does she spend so much time with you? Why does father spend so much time with you? She is training you. Father deemed it wiser, Hinata admitted. As he felt like I had little talent for our clan's taijutsu style. Hinata wondered why she suddenly had issues with calling it gentle fist, like she always did before. Suzaku-sama's words really affected me. But she is right. It is very ironic how father, and the rest of the clan with him, focuses on power, while the style is supposed to be gentle. And Hanabi bought my answer. She still thinks I am weak, why have we never been able to act like normal siblings? Hinata thought, saddened by the insight she had. Her mother's teaching improved her insight, but at what cost? Naruto-kun was right. It sometimes is more convenient to live in a world of lies. This world of truth is a harsh one. Why did you not beat me? Hanabi said, after a little while of silence. That duel in front of father and the elders. You could have beaten me. Why didn't you? Did you want me to hurt you? That should not have mattered. Hanabi suddenly exclaimed. That patient and understanding voice got to her. It was a match. We are shinobi. Father is right, you are weak. Hinata sighed as she saw her younger sister march away. Is it weakness to have emotions? She mumbled to herself. Is it strength to cower away from those emotions? To hide them? To suppress them? Hinata made a mental note. She would have to ask her mother and Suzaku about this. What would they see as strength? Meanwhile, Hanabi did not understand her older sister at all. She never did. Was she strong? Was she weak? Why did her father call her one, while her mother said the contrary? Frustrated, Hanabi had decided to walk away. It wasn't proper, she knew that. But she knew she could get away with it. Hanabi knew that if it was Hinata, she would be forgiven. Even for her jealousy. Bonus. Temptations. She hated cleaning. The only thing worse than having to clean a house, is to clean two houses. Especially when both buildings had been abandoned for at least a decade or so. Was there a superlative degree? Sure there was, she had to do it all while being sober. Hell on earth. And Mr. Stick Up His Ass doesn't cut me any slack either. And the Hyuga slave master has even less mercy, Anko grumbled. Inwardly, of course, she didn't want to risk getting more orders from said slave master. Akko would not tolerate such talk, after all. Whatever that Iruka guy didn't tell her, he'd better say it soon. He freaking knows that she is aware he is hiding something. The sooner he tells her, the sooner she gets rid of that nasty temper of hers. Anko yawned. Fuck it all. I'm going to the kitchen. I'll do this freaking room tomorrow. Stepping into the corridor which connected all 7 bedrooms in the Uzumaki building, Enko rubbed her eyes in disbelief. "You can't be here," she whispered. But he was. He stood there, and she saw everything. Her eyes wandered down, and frozen when she saw it. She couldn't believe her eyes. It was perfect. Absolutely perfect. A bit of drool was seen on Enko's chin as she walked forward, mesmerized by the sight in front of her. "Come to mama," she whispered huskily. And he was gone. Wait. Jiraiya woke up, dragged by his ankle by Tsunade, who apparently had the furious intention to use him as a baseball bat. It was not that Tsunade could hit the nimble cat in her intoxicated condition, but the misses would hurt too. "This must be the worst hangover in the history of mankind," Jiraiya whimpered. Tsunade didn't register that her fellow Sannin had woken up though. No, she already started to swing him forward. But again, the cat evaded her. "Switch," Sakana panted, the moment he was out of the drunk Sannin's sight. "Please switch Sudo. I can't keep this up." Tisk. "Fine then, but you'll be working on your endurance for the coming weeks. And a diet." Sudo disliked the lack of discipline with the food-crazed cat. And true Ninako should be in top condition, not indulge himself in loads of sweets. Outrunning a drunk should be no issue at all for a real Ninako. "Don't think you can get away from me," Enko growled. But she couldn't get closer. Every time he vanished, making her, one of Konoha's top hunter nins, search for him. Still, Enko enjoyed the challenge. She had seen that it was worth the effort, after all. There he was again. Enko charged after it this time. Somehow, a certain jutsu was blocking her vision, but how? She really going nuts, isn't she? Hiba sighed. He, Hinata, and Kurenai kept a little distance. Reasoning with the drunk and angered Tsunade was rather unsuccessful so far. "Karen will get Akko and Enko to help us," Kurenai sighed. "We can't capture Tsunade-sama and she at the same time. Anyo, can't you use Genjutsu, Kurenai-sensei? On a Sannin." Kurenai shook her head. "No, I would rather not get her after me. Not while she still has this much energy. Senjus and their stamina. Why are we heading in the direction of the Uzumaki compound?" Hiba wondered. "I wonder what that cat is planning this time." Kurenai had a foreboding feeling that this was going to be a very messy day. "But as long as she's going to a thinly populated area, I'm not going to interfere." Frowning, Rado looked down. He stood always the stairways that went down the mountain. Taking a walk was good to clear his head. "Freaking exhibitionist," he grumbled. "Enko really needed a lesson in proper etiquette. I wonder why she's running around like that though." His frown got even deeper when he saw Senju Tsunade, still dragging Jiraiya by the ankle, run into the compound. Quickly followed by Team 8. However, this was not what gave him a chill down his spine. Hyuga Akko, flanked by a subdued-looking Karen, stood outside. The menacing aura around her made even Enko stop in her mad quest. Well, only for a second. She couldn't let him get away. Not when she finally cornered him. "Ah crap, she can't see him." Enko muttered. "Damn it, I have to catch him before she." If she got her hands on that bottle, she wouldn't even know how insanely good that particular brand of sake is. She'd throw it away. The heretic. She already felt tears in her eyes from the very idea of seeing such a bottle of sake being smashed in front of her. The man on the label of the bottle had been a mark of one of the best brands of sake Enko knew. And in her alcohol deprivation she had never wondered who had been dragging her around with this particular bait. Right until a certain black and white cat crashed into her. "Tag, you're it," she cheered. "Wah," was all Enko could say before Tsunade appeared. Rushing through the forestry, she never saw Enko's beloved bottle. The smell of sake, coming from the bottle she just trampled into 1,000 pieces, however did get noticed. Rado decided to go back up the mountain, when he saw the battle unfold. In her drunken stupor, Tsunade could barely fend of the enraged Enko, while Akko just grabbed a certain cat by the tail. "I could see that cat trying to put all the blame on me," Rado sighed. "I'd better clear out for now. Akko-san never is very reasonable when it comes to cheese pranks. Even Gara-san admitted being scared. And I don't want to think what Enko might do if she thinks I was behind that joke with the sake bottle. I never should have told that cat to prank her with alcohol." Then again, After the stunts Anko pulled, perhaps I should buy a bottle for myself, and drink it in front of her. He mused. Nobody ever paid attention to the barely conscious Jiraiya though. Serving as a living baseball bat did not go too well with the hangover he already had. And teammate was just too flabbergasted to remember that he was left behind in the bushes, being dropped the moment Tsunade had to dodge Anko's barrage of Sanban. I wonder how Sandame-sama is going to judge the success of this mission. Kurenai pinched the bridge of her nose. Chapter 51. Demise PT-1. Aburame Shino was not the type of person to easily display his emotions. For as long as he could remember, he was calm and collected. He was someone whose actions were based on proper logic rather than chaotic emotions. He acted exactly as a good Aburame was expected to, but still, today, Shino wasn't as calm as he wanted to be. In fact, he had to make a conscious effort to suppress the frown that constantly tried to emerge on his face. Then again, loyalty to his team was something of key importance to him. While his insects were far easier to interact with, his teammates were, odd as they may be to him, a connection to humanity that he valued very much. But under the current circumstances, he began to question the functionality of his team almost to the extent that he started to regret not being on his original team anymore. Because, while Kiba had been an anomaly to Shino, since he was a being who was driven by emotion to the same extent as Shino was by logic, Hinata and Kurenai had been far easier to interact with. Instead, Shino felt helpless as he saw a distant Kakashi, who seemed unable to comprehend his teammates' feelings, a very angry Uchiha, and the emotional chaos which was named Haruno Sakura. Admittedly, Shino could not blame Sakura for her fluctuating behavior. The young Kunoichi had first lost her mother, and now her father had died due to an accident. While Shino could logically comprehend the sorrow which Sakura felt, her moments of rage surprised him. It eluded him why someone would blame an intoxicated person for having an accident, or why she would be enraged at someone who had already left their world. What point was there for her to blame her father? Shino knew that alcohol was a tool used by many shinobi in order to find a temporary escape from the emotions that cropped up within them. And while the Aburame did not require such a crude method to control themselves, they understood the function it served well enough even though the method was obviously flawed. The number of accidents caused by intoxicated people, such as the latest rampage of Senju Tsunade through the main street of Konoha, was evidence of that. By definition, people who were under the influence of alcohol were not in control of their actions. It was a cardinal sin in the eyes of every Aburame, but, well, the Aburame simply had better teachers. Their insects showed them the way a far less confusing way. In that contrast, the behavior of his last teammate was the most difficult to understand for Shino. Insects did not bear grudges. Insects did not strive for pointless violence, especially not against those who were considered allies, but Uchiha Sasuke had ended up in hospital for those exact reasons. Shino noted that while he and his team visited him there, none of the others really seemed to be there. Sakura was distracted by her own grief, and didn't fawn over Sasuke like she usually did. Shino had to admit to himself that this was the only positive that came out of all these horrible events. Kakashi, their sensei, seemed to be at a loss for words. Shino suspected that he was mostly disappointed in Sasuke, although he wondered why Kakashi didn't intervene earlier. All the signs that Sasuke had been having issues with his temper were there. Issues which clearly were not solved. Uncharacteristically, Shino had been the person who had talked most of the four even while not speaking more than usual. On his way back to his clan's compound, Shino couldn't help but release the sigh which had been building up for the last hour. I am beginning to think that Naruto-san was not the one at fault, unlike how Sakura-san insisted. While his behavior is highly illogical too, Sasuke's unprovoked attack would suggest that the reason for his conflict with Naruto could also originate from him. Therefore, I might have judged Naruto unjustly. Yes, interacting with other humans was a confusing activity. Highly illogical. Rado looked to his side, and realized that for once Anko was feeling completely the same way as he felt. They were out of place here. Hokage-sama, are you sure Mitarashi-san and I should? I am no longer your Hokage. Rado-kun, Hiruzen chided him gently. But you two should remain here, yes. You two should stay near, in case Jiraiya or Tsunade need help. You're seriously going to let that kid go through with this? Now, of all times. Anko gritted her teeth, trying to suppress her frustration. You know how much he's already struggling. I do, Anko-chan, and that's why I asked him to do it now. Hiruzen smiled, much to the confusion of the two Tokubetsu Jonin. It is why we are doing this up here, on the top of the mountain ridge where there is little left to destroy, yet still within the barrier of the Uzumaki compound. Besides, Jiraiya and Tsunade are here as well. Please don't say. What could go wrong? Because if you say that shit will definitely hit the fan, Anko grumbled. Rado, having far too much respect for Hiruzen to actually voice any disagreements, silently agreed. He really grew on you, didn't he? What? Anko blinked. The way you are worried, both of you, about what might happen to Naruto-kun, Hiruzen clarified. It has been a while, since I last saw you worrying about someone else. I don't usually give a damn about people, considering how everyone treats me anyway. But that kid is different, Anko admitted. It could be frustrating at times, but the mission sure was fun. He's like some kind of insane little brother, who actually knows what it is to, well, you know, she moved her shoulder a little, making it obvious to Hiruzen that she was pointing at the cursed seal Orochimaru left her with. You of all people calling someone else insane, that's a new one, Rado mumbled. Wow, even Mr. Stick Up His Ass is making jokes now. You should have heard Rado and Genma, when they had enough sake, at the campfires at night, Hiruzen chuckled, thinking back at the times they were his guards. Ah, it's nostalgic to think back to those times. It's so sad that Genma died, he sighed, sad that the man had lost his life at the hands of the Akatsuki shinobi who had attempted to capture Gaara and Naruto. He's ready, sensei, Tsunade stomped forward. I'm still thinking you've lost it, though. He isn't completely stupid, Jiraiya joined them. Rado noted the sad look on the face of the Godime Hokage. You heard what he said, he has to use the Kyuubi's chakra again, Tsunade snarled. You know the effect that demon has on him, and you still want to proceed with it. Baki himself said that Gaara could stay here as long as it would take, and cautioned that we should avoid unnecessary risks. Sure, he did, Jiraiya sighed. Sunagakure knows that it depends on us, or more specifically on Naruto, when it comes to the fate of their Jinchuriki. And they know full well that Gaara is one of their strongest assets if he is sane. Why else do you think Baki gave those scrolls to Naruto? They want to ensure he's doing his absolute best, even though they realize he relates more to Gaara than any non-Jinchuriki could possibly understand. Handing him copies of Pakura's scrolls on her Shikuden abilities was certainly unexpected, Hiruzen chimed in. But it seems like Naruto is ready. Jiraiya nodded. The business with Sunagakure wasn't exactly unimportant, but with the new treaties signed in the past week since Jiraiya had taken the position of Godime, relations between Suna and Konoha had at least been restored to a decent level. After all, breaking recently signed treaties was a thing that was highly frowned upon in their world. And Sunagakure already had suffered a lot of damage to its reputation, after the way it had launched an attack on Konoha during the Chunin exams. But with the election of Jiraiya, Suna's council had been willing to accept that they had to make concessions after those events. Jiraiya also knew that the recent improvements between Kirigakure and Konoha also aided this. Sunagakure was afraid to be left out, as it knew that Konoha didn't need an alliance any longer to maintain the balance against the threats of Kumogakure and Iwagakure. Frankly, Jiraiya felt like the gesture of returning Kankuro with the corpse of the late Kazekage had been a genius move as well, because it had only further increased the goodwill from Suna's side. And Jiraiya valued the alliance between Suna and Konoha far more than the possibility of uncovering Tei's secrets behind the late Kazekage's Kekkei Genkai. Many within the council had argued against this, saying that Konoha should value power above anything else, but Jiraiya disagreed. In his view, power only brought more war, yet it would take kindness and tolerance to establish a peace. This was what the Sandaime had taught his students, and this was also in line with Jiraiya's personal views on what he called the cycle of hatred. Still, to rush things like this, Tsunade hesitated. It only seems to invite troubles, and for what reason? Naruto sat in front of Gaara, focusing to gather his and the Kyuubi's chakra. He had already drawn the changes that he would insert in Gaara's seal, under Jiraiya's watchful gaze. But between him and Gamazu, the professor amongst the toads, he had found no logical reason to assume that the design which Naruto had created these past weeks wouldn't work. Quite honestly, Jiraiya was a bit surprised at how much Naruto had grown in the art of Fuinjutsu, despite knowing that his Kage Bunshin method made him learn far faster than normal people ever could. Looking up, Naruto nodded towards Jiraiya. Good luck, kiddo, the latter sighed. Sensei, are you still prepared to go through with this? Tsunade frowned, caught off guard by his words. I am, Jiraiya. We already discussed this, it is unavoidable. Hiruzen's voice had a determination in it which made Tsunade shiver. What are you two planning? She asked suspiciously. What is going on? Go. Naruto. Jiraiya ignored her question and signaled his godson to start the sealing. No double agendas this time, right? Naruto stood in front of the Kyuubi within his mindscape, looking at him with more than a dollop of suspicion. We made a deal, and I gave my word I would help you in changing Shukaku's wretched seal, didn't I? Last time you gave your word, you still screwed me over, Naruto growled. Give me your word that you're not going to mess with my seal this time. The demonic Kitsune sighed. Fine, I will try my best to minimize the strain my chakra will create on that stupid seal. And it is not like I broke my word last time, because I stopped Shukaku exactly as I promised. You were just dumb enough not to realize the additional damage it would cause, the Biju chuckled darkly. Yeah, I underestimated how much of prick you are, Naruto frowned. All those words about honor, about how you detested humans who always lied and deceived, and you still ended up doing something that underhanded. Don't push me too far, human, the fox narrowed its eyes. Well, for a freaking demon, you did something pretty damn similar to what humans do. When you screwed me over back then, Naruto huffed. Now, give me the chakra I need so that we can get this over with. I owe it to Gaara to make sure his seal is fixed before you destroy mine. Even if I'm doomed, I could at least make sure he lives a happy life. Tisk. Fine, it's yours. Just don't waste it. The less you use of it, the less the amount of damage will be to your seal, the annoyed demon felt obliged to add his warning. After what you pulled, you bet your furry ass I'm going to use as little of it as I possibly can. As inevitable as it may be, I'd rather stay sane for a little while longer. Naruto looked up once more, the disgust and distrust clear in his gaze, before he turned around and left the sewer-like room. Comparing me to a lowly human, the kid has guts, I have to hand him that. But what irks me most is that it was indeed deceptive, the somewhat guilt-ridden Kyuubi mused. Despite his annoyance, he couldn't escape the fact that the promise of help he had given to Naruto when he fought the Jinchuriki of the Aikibi was mostly aimed at helping himself. Not lies, if one chose to nitpick on the wording, but that very action was something he deemed more human than Kurama wanted to admit. Lying as still as he possibly could, Sabaku no Gaara watched as the eyes of his brother in burden changed in color. Normally, the Crimson Chakra would have already intimidated Gaara, mostly due to the Aikibi's frenzy that followed as a response, but today it was worse. It was not just Shukaku's fear rising in him, but also his own. Then again, the success Naruto had with this seal would determine his fate. Live or die, it depended on whether or not the keyhole in the new seal that held the Aikibi at bay could be inserted successfully. His life was on the line, as any mistake would destabilize his seal and unleash the Aikibi. If the new element was not inserted successfully, the Aikibi could continue to gather chakra until it reached a level where the seal would collapse under the pressure, which would mean death. If the new element did not fit or not function properly for some reason, the seal would be weak and Gaara would once again fall under the demon's control. In Gaara's opinion, death would be a better fate. Still, if it could be a success, Gaara would be able to control the Aikibi's chakra to some degree, releasing the surplus of its chakra in a controlled fashion. It would make Gaara one of the strongest shinobi of Sunagaku, if not the strongest, and an invaluable asset when it came to the defense of his village. After all, what lunatic would opt to assault a village in the center of a desert, when there was someone who could control that desert? It would be a mass suicide, because any who would try would end up being crushed by Gaara. But if Gaara died, Baki had made it pretty clear that his death, so soon after the Kazekage died, would most likely lead to other nations trying to launch an assault on Sunagaku, sooner rather than later, as there was only a limited window of opportunity before the Aikibi would respawn. Remember. Don't move, and don't try to mold any chakra. Naruto repeated his earlier words. I don't want to tell Tamari that I accidentally ended up killing you because you sneezed, alright. I am ready. Good. Now, this will hurt for a moment. Naruto added a warning which Gaara would have liked to have known earlier, not that such knowledge would have helped him in any way. Chakra flooded his body. Warm, scorching hot chakra. It ran through him like liquid fire, and Gaara clenched his teeth in an attempt to suppress the scream that he felt down his throat. Pain. For years Gaara hadn't known what it was, not physical pain at least, but this excruciating pain. Oddly, his defenses never reacted. Or perhaps Naruto had somehow temporarily sealed that. Gaara did not know. Nor did he care too much either, at this moment. Don't move, Naruto hissed, mercilessly ignoring the pain Gaara would suffer. This pain was the smallest price which Gaara would have to pay, so he would just have to bear it. Naruto knew that some of the influx of chakra could have been regulated in ways that would cause less pain, but for some odd reason, Hiruzen and Jiraiya had insisted that Naruto would do the sealing as soon as possible. Naruto watched carefully as the extensive patterns of ink that he had drawn earlier now started to glow. Like tiny crimson snakes, the symbols started to move, swirling down the paths Naruto had ordered them to go, straight into the seal he had put on Gaara during the final round of the Chunin exams. Good. Seems like everything is going according to plan, part of Naruto's mind indicated, while most of his attention remained on the seal. Any small loss of concentration could be fatal now. Everything had to be right. The most difficult aspect of all was maintaining the exact same balance between his own and the Kyuubi's chakra as he had during the first sealing. That balancing was not made any easier by the seemingly endless flow of chakra that the sealing demanded now. How could such a small element require such an amount of chakra? Sweat drops started to appear on his forehead, and Naruto saw the squirming Gaara pant with an equal amount of exhaustion as he himself felt. Seriously, feeling as if you were burned from the inside out did not feel very comfortable. But it was done. His shoulders slumped, and Naruto would have fallen over if Jiraiya hadn't appeared next to him. Did it work? Naruto smiled weakly, though confidently, at the worried Godime. Of course it did, Arokage-sama, he boasted. How could a genius like me failughh? Naruto doubled over. Kid, are you okay? His eyes shut, Naruto tried to bite away the excruciating pain in his stomach. Oi, answer me damn it, was it Anko or Tsunade speaking now, or both? Naruto couldn't tell. He was too tired. And his stomach, it was as if everything was on fire. As if his body was falling apart. Fine, Naruto gasped. I'm fine. Give me my scroll. Yeah right, like I'm going to let you kill yourself, Jiraiya scoffed, making the two women gasp. Or did you really think that I wouldn't check this backup of yours? I'm not in the mood to be reprimanded, old man, Naruto growled. Give me the damn scroll, take Gaara, and scram. Now. Like hell we are, Anko snapped. Don't think we're going to. Sensei. Tsunade's near-whispering voice drew Naruto's attention. Rado, Anko, you two take Gaara to the living quarters down the mountain, Hiruzen ordered. But, Anko's protest was cut off when Rado put a hand on the snake mistress' shoulder and shook his head. It was an honor, Sandaime-sama, the scarred Tokubetsu Jonin said while he bowed deeply to show his respect. The honor was mine, Rado, Hiruzen smiled softly, ignoring Anko's confused looks. And if you would listen to the last advice of this selfish old man, please do not make the mistake I made. Live, Rado, not just for the sake of the village, not for the sake of duty, but also for yourself and your own happiness. Rado blinked, and looked up at the old man. I shall try to do as you wish, the stoic man replied honestly. Honestly, because he knew that such a thing would be difficult for him. If not impossible, as it went straight against every custom imprinted in his behavioral patterns to the point where Genma had often joked that he was the only bug-free Aburame in the village. Perhaps Anko can teach you a thing or two, Hiruzen chuckled. Lifting up the completely exhausted Gaara, who was still struggling to endure the pain, Rado looked one last time at the Hokage whom he had served so long. He then jumped away, following orders, always following orders. Anko looked at Hiruzen, still confused about the exchange of words, then she shrugged and followed Rado. What are you playing at? Tsunade's voice had an edge that worried Naruto. Shiki Fujin, Jiraiya whispered. He put the nearly paralyzed Naruto down, and removed the dark green kimono that covered the boy's stomach. Tsunade saw the seal on Naruto, glowing like a feverish wound, and felt her innards freeze when she realized what was going on. You can't, she gasped. I can, I will, I must, Hiruzen declared, though as kindly as possible, which decisively ended any possible discussion. Don't, Haim, Jiraiya grabbed Tsunade by the arm. Nothing you say will stop this. And I tried everything I can possibly think of, which is a lot more than even you would be able to be frank, considering that this concerns Fuinjutsu. You can't be serious. Jiraiya, you can't let him go through with this. Old man, what are you going to do? Naruto frowned. You know I can't hold the fox back for that much longer. I did what I had to do, so why can't you just let me end my life the way I want? I would rather take that bastard down with me, than allow him to control me and then hurt everyone precious to me. That is not necessary. Naruto-kun, Hiruzen smiled fondly. You will live, and you will remain in control of your own body, at least for as much time as I can possibly buy you. Buy time. What are you talking about? Uzumaki Naruto, I offer you my final words. The jutsu which I am about to do is one that will claim my life, but in return, it will strengthen your seal. Naruto cringed as the Kyuubi suddenly started to push as much chakra into Naruto's body as it possibly could. And Naruto barely had the ability to restrain himself. He wanted to kill, to maim, to tear everything into tiny pieces to burn down the atrocious village that never. Jiraiya spied Naruto's wild and deep red eyes, and slapped a paper tag on top of Naruto's head. Instantly, Naruto felt relieved, as he regained control over his chakra and his body. What are you saying? And why is the Kyuubi going into a panicked frenzy because of it? He muttered weakly, when he finally caught his breath again. Because it has probably realized what I am about to do. Hiruzen couldn't help but feel a rather large amount of satisfaction for scaring the mightiest of the Biju in his final moments. The Shiki Fujin was the seal which Minato used to seal the Kyuubi in Yu. While the Hake Fuin is the design of its prison, the Shiki Fujin was what empowered it. And as the name, Dead Demon Consuming Seal, states, it is backed by the might of the Shinigami itself. But, there is a price that needs to be paid for its help. You're going to sacrifice your life, Naruto realized. He didn't even need to see the tears that were dripping from Tsunade's chin to know that it was true. Don't feel bad about it, Hiruzen assured the boy. I am dying anyway. Orochimaru made sure of that, remember. I made my share of mistakes, and can be blamed for many of the bad things that happened to you. Giving up the last few days I have is but a small price I could pay in order to repent for that. Ji-san, you don't need to. I don't want you to. Not for me, not like this, no. I am only an old man at the end of his days, Naruto. But you are the future of Konoha. You endured things that would make most others fall in an instant. You endured years of hatred, shunned by a village that could not, and would not, understand the price you paid on their behalf. Even with a seal that was slowly decaying, you endured the hatred of the demon inside you, reaching out to all those around you. I know, Naruto, that you will become a far better Hokage than I have ever been. Just do not make the same mistake as I did. This goes for all three of you. Hiruzen looked up at his former students as well. Do not focus merely on the village. Do not mistake the means for the end. Konoha is but a part of the world, and not the world itself. Shodaime-sama created our village to end wars, not to continue waging wars on a larger scale. Remember that. The wide-eyed blonde watched as Sarutobi Hiruzen, the professor, the god of shinobi, performed his last set of hand seals. Naruto was too stunned to even pay attention to which seals they were, and Jiraiya squeezed his shoulder. Looking up, Naruto saw the sad grimace on his godfather's face, one so uncharacteristically for the usually so goofy man. Shiki Fujin, Hiruzen exclaimed, grimacing due to the strain it put on his fragile body. Casting it cost more chakra than he anticipated. Or had his reserves dwindled more than he had realized. A large and horrid, translucent, gaunt specter with a demonic visage appeared behind the old Hokage, but Naruto noted that neither Tsunade nor Jiraiya reacted when it appeared. Naruto could see though, when Hiruzen had his hand on Naruto's seal. But the Shinigami wasn't all that Naruto saw. A silhouette of Hiruzen himself floated in front of it. Be strong, Naruto, Hiruzen whispered. Continue to endure. Change the world, and leave it a better place. That is the highest goal a shinobi could pursue. Do not delude yourself by thinking that strength or skill will make any difference. No, a truly great shinobi changes the world so that the next generation will get a better life. We too are but a means, never the end. We only serve as a transition for those born after us in the endless cycle called life. I will, old man, I promise I will. I swear on my life. Good. And never sacrifice your life as easily as you were about to do just now. I give you what little is left of mine, so you are no longer just responsible for just your own life. Make me proud. I know you can do it. An indecipherable pattern of symbols spread over the Shinigami's arm, and then it plunged its hand into the soul of Sarutobi Hiruzen. A sob escaped Tsunade's throat as she saw the blood run from her teacher's mouth. Naruto gasped when he felt the cold hand of death literally touching him. The most surreal feeling chakra Naruto had ever encountered spread. This chakra was just so alien, almost even more inhuman than that of the Kyuubi itself. Naruto realized that this was why Hiruzen executed this specific jutsu. Just like Naruto had to do for Gaara, his own seal could also only be safely reinforced or altered by using the exact same chakra as the Yondaime had used to empower the original design. In other words, only someone knowing the Shiki Fujin would be able to help him repair the seal. This was why Hiruzen had said that he was the only one capable of helping him, only he knew the jutsu he and Minato had declared forbidden. The determined grimace on Hiruzen's face slowly changed into a peaceful smile. The old man knew he had offered all of his chakra, down to the very last drop, to the Shinigami. And according to the contract, Naruto's seal was restored, stronger than it had been for many years. To his shock, Hiruzen realized that he had just completed the seal. Several elements had never been drawn out completely. They were details that no one would see, unless they would be connected to the Shinigami itself, the source of the seal's energy. Minato never got to complete the jutsu. But how? Minato knew the Shiki Fujin better than anyone, and the Hake Fuin, he should not have made such mistakes, Hiruzen panted. From the corner of his eye, he saw that the Shinigami had moved its tanto down, and was about to drag him into its belly, the place where Hiruzen knew he would have to reside for the rest of eternity, the price he paid to buy Konoha a better future. He should not have made such mistakes, unless. The seal, it wasn't complete. That day, someone interrupted Minato. While sealing the queue, Hiruzen gasped before the Shinigami claimed his soul. Lifeless, Sarutobi Hiruzen, the god of shinobi, fell forward into Jiraiya's arms. Tears flowed on the Senin's face as he laid down the body of his sensei, his example. The man had been like a father to him, back when he had been nothing but a poor, but talented, orphan. Rest in peace, old man, he whispered. He knew that there would be time enough to mull over the last words the man had uttered. What could he have meant when he said Minato was interrupted during the sealing ceremony? Asuma, Kurenai, I know you're there, just come forth. A shaky and subdued Asuma, supported by Kurenai, walked forward. Even though Hiruzen had asked them to stay home after telling them what he was going to do, they hadn't listened. How could they? With Kurenai's prowess in genjutsu, hiding hadn't been that difficult either. You stubborn old man, Asuma wept. Why did you have to be so damn honorable to the very end? Goodbye, Dad. Kurenai embraced Asuma, letting her own tears escape as well. Their hands intertwined, now adorned with the rings they had exchanged in a small private ceremony just 2 days ago. Naruto didn't notice them though. He stared up into the skies, oblivious to the 4 grieving adults around him. Unlike them, he couldn't cry. He could not let his emotions flow out. He wanted to. He really did, but somehow he couldn't. Something blocked him. Something stopped the tears. It angered him. He felt like his heart was ripped apart by 1,000 needles, yet he couldn't even force a damn tear out of his eyes. Goodbye, old man. Thank you. For everything. For being there for me. And I never blamed you for anything that happened to me, I told you that. How could I? Apart from Ero Sennin, you were the only person looking after me. Until Hinata-chan found me, before I met Haruki and Akko, You two were the only ones who would acknowledge my existence. How could I not love you like you were family? Why did you think I called you my Jii-san? Finally, the first tear escaped. How could I not admire who you were? I made my promise, but right now I can't imagine how I ever could become a better Hokage than you were. The first tear was soon followed by many more. Sarutobi Hiruzen, the Sandaime Hokage of Konoha, had left this world. And he had given Naruto a peace and quiet which he would only later realized. No longer would the Kyuubi's hatred affect his every waking thought and emotion. Naruto was freed. He was himself again. The influence that had seeped into him was sealed once more, as the demon's prison was reinforced. In his death, Sarutobi Hiruzen had given Naruto a chance to live, a chance to grow strong, a chance to become powerful enough to resist the corrupting influences of the Kyuubi no Yoko. Sarutobi Hiruzen had also given Naruto time for the boy to grow strong, independent from the fox. It was a sacrifice Naruto would never forget, and he swore to repay it, no matter the price. I will make the world a better place, Jii-san. No matter the cost, the next generation will get a world of peace. It is the promise of a lifetime. No, 2 lifetimes. Chapter 52. Demise PT2. Walking on the, by now, familiar path through the forest line, Tenten frowned a little at the sight in front of her. As she passed the torii that marked the entrance to the Uzumaki compound, Tenten saw countless Narutos on the large pond. But on top of the wooden platform in the center, where the bridges crossing the pond were connected, stood Mitarashi Anko, a very happy Mitarashi Anko. Target practice, one of the copies yelled as he jumped on the bridge. His black shirt, sporting the Uzumaki clan symbol, was soaked. By the smell of it, although they stood a few meters apart, Tenten strongly suspected it was from sweat and not from the pond below. You're exaggerating everything again, she hollered, and then pinched the bridge of her nose while muttering something about boys and ridiculous training methods. Only a little, Naruto shrugged. But after the thing with Sasuke, I realized I had to up my speed. I mean, that bastard wasn't even the quickest guy at the Chunin exams, and he still had me on the ropes while I couldn't use Kage Bunshin. Luckily, Anko is, well, I wonder if I should call it friendly, the blonde frowned. Ah well, let's just say that she's friendly enough to help me out. Aside from testing my new limits on how much chakra I have, it is giving me more experience in how to dodge and evade attacks. Even though I can't train my physical speed this way. She's just happy that she has an endless supply of clones which she can kill, isn't she? Tenten deadpanned, seeing the maniacal grin on the older Kunoichi's face. Kinda. Though, I would rather have her blow off steam here, than let her continue with her crazy attempts at making Rado a more social man. A sweat drop ran down the back of the blonde's head. Then again, Anko's methods, which usually involved pain or snakes, or both, didn't really seem to be related to what she said she wanted to do. She's just annoyed she hasn't tortured or interrogated anyone, and now she tries to take it out on us. Well, on Rado, at least. Kurenai-sensei won't allow her to touch any of us, and Akko-chan is, well, even Anko knows when to back off. Boss is at the temple, just knock at the front door before you enter, in case he's doing something crazy again, the clone continued aloud. Though I bet that crazy snake lady is going pop at least one of my brothers before you arrive, so boss will know you're coming. You're all alone with Anko. Nope. Rado and Gaara are up the mountain with Yamato, as Gaara is doing chakra control exercises. Tamari has a few of my brethren with her, to teach us how to improve our futon jutsus. My futon jutsus, whatever. We are all me, so who cares? And Karen, well, she's having some fun with Kurenai-sensei and the others, going through a lot of training, the clone chuckled. Sensei, do we really need to do this? Karen panted. Of course, Kurenai frowned. Kiba and Hinata aren't having much trouble, so I think you should really keep working on improving your stamina. At least you recover quicker that we do, Kiba smirked. Though, this was only the warming up exercise. Akamaru yipped in affirmation and hopped over to the now depressed Uzumaki. I'm sure you'll improve quickly, Karen-san, Hinata encouraged her. If anyone could relate to Karen's lack of confidence, it would be Hinata. When we first became genin, we had to adjust to the training regime too. Yeah, Konoha certainly trains its genin harder than Kusa ever did, Karen sighed. Ah well, let's continue. I'm not going to hold you back this time. Kurenai couldn't help but smile at the determination of her genin. In her years, she had seen more than her fair share of shinobi who lost motivation after dropping out of the exams. Not everyone had the willpower to continue pursuing their goals after having such a setback, not to mention that many lost their innocent ideas on what it means to be a shinobi. Too many genin still entered the exams with some kind of romanticized idea of their careers, and were unguarded against the brutal onslaught that usually followed during the first rounds, which weeded out the weakest and most naive of them. Sometimes is it just so easy to forget that they are still just children. Just before Tenten went to knock on the old and weathered door which closed off the Uzumaki mask storage temple, a voice resounded, telling her to come in. You've really lived among the Hyuga too long, didn't you? Tenten muttered, walking towards the main hall. Nope, but I did put up a lot of barriers around this place, so I knew someone was right in front of the door, Naruto answered, surprising the girl with how sharp his hearing was. The main hall was now filled with two large tables, whose tops couldn't be seen due to the vast amount of books and scrolls littered on top of them. Whoa, what bomb did explode in this place? Or was it a tornado that created this chaos? Guess I have to clean up, don't I? Naruto laughed sheepishly, scratching the back of his head. I had to do a lot of research for Gaara's ceiling, and considering how Akko and the others don't come in this place, usually I just clean my room because Akko gets mad if I don't. She can be surprisingly strict for someone who appears to be so calm. They don't enter this room. Why not? Tenten frowned. They're afraid. See those masks? Naruto pointed at the podium, of sorts, where several Oni masks hung beneath three connected symbols of the Uzumaki clan. Those things are rather dangerous. That's the reason why I put up barriers around this place, even though it is within the confines of this compound. Tenten noticed that something was off about those things. In fact, they spooked her. As if the demonic visages were actual faces, staring at her. Seeing the girl take a step back, Naruto smiled. Don't worry, they don't bite. What are those things? Not sure. Naruto chuckled when she glared at him. I'm not going to take any risks with those things, seriously. Some feel like they would suck out my soul if I'd put them up, others feel like a promise of endless torment, and others, Naruto shivered for a moment. I have to study the seals engraved on the masks in perfect detail, before I'm even doing a thing with them. And that's only for the ones that don't freak me out. The really bad ones, I'm not touching those, not for 100 million ryo. Tenten paled a little. Whatever frightened Naruto, someone who was unfazed even when confronting a Biju, was something way beyond her comfort zone. Rummaging through a pile of scrolls on the table, Naruto finally found what he was looking for. Here, he threw it towards Tenten. It's a copy of a weight seal, which includes some presets which you could switch between when activated, so that it is easier to apply to the weapons you wield. Wah! Tenten stared owlishly at the blonde. You used something like that to beat Shino, during the finals. This version is a bit more advanced. I thought you would like it, considering how it complements nicely with your Bukijutsu. It's a seal that can be applied to most of your weapons. Well, except for the throwing weapons, I guess, Naruto considered. But you'd be a better judge of that. It's your specialty, after all. Thanks. Tenten felt a bit awkward that Naruto just handed her such a jutsu, without even asking for anything in return. No problem. Naruto smiled widely. For an instant, Tenten was stunned by the realization of how much the boy had changed. No longer did he have that distant look in his eyes, as if he distrusted the entire world around him. No, his blue eyes had a cheerful sparkle that just seemed to be too contagious to resist. How are bushy brows, Neji, and bushier brows sensei doing? Training. Of course, Tenten sighed. Ever since you beat Lee, his flames of youth are burning higher than ever. So I had to get away for a while, as I couldn't stand Guy Sensei's rants on youth any longer. As for Neji, well, he seems to have changed a lot. He spends a lot more time with us now, though the death of his father hit him hard, she admitted. Losing those dear to you, if it didn't affect him at all, he wouldn't have had a heart, Naruto grimaced, and Tenten saw that despite the cheerful attitude earlier, Naruto was still a rather contemplative. And that would have been worse than the pain he feels right now. What did you do to him? Neji. He hated his clan. He had so much anger that Guy-sensei even considered taking him out of the exams, saying that Neji wasn't ready for promotion yet. But after you beat him, he suddenly addresses Hinata as Sama, but without any of the sarcasm or gloomy expressions which he used to have with it. And attending the party for your birthday too, it was almost a bit out of character for him. Neji was cornered, and did things most people would have done, I guess. Hinata convinced me to force him from the path he was on. Frankly, if it had been up to me at that point, I would rather have murdered him for what he did during the prelims. But Hinata showed me that my beliefs were just as wrong as Neji's. Hatred isn't something that emerges without a cause. I was merely fighting the symptoms, while Hinata showed me that it is far more effective to confront the root cause. What do you mean? Tenten frowned. You mean that whole main and branch business from the Hyuga clan? You messed with his seal, didn't you? She realized. I trust you, Tenten, so I won't lie and deny it but never tell anyone that I can do that. Naruto looked her in the eyes. If the Hyuga knew I could mess with their caged bird seal system, they wouldn't be very pleased. Well, that would be an understatement, considering the power the Hyuga clan has. This is the kind of stuff that could cause civil wars. Tenten paled, and was too speechless to do anything but nod. I know that Lee and Guy-sensei wouldn't question his behavior, and happily accept it as a change for the better. But you're too inquisitive, Naruto smiled. You'd axe. And Neji can't give the honest answer without revealing this secret. And knowing him, I suspect his response would be rather disrespectful. Noticing Tenten's grimace, he started chuckling. Now you know why he was such a prick about it. I suppose. Not that I like it. Stupid secrets everywhere, Tenten mumbled. We're shinobi. It's not like all our conflicts could just be solved by turning it into a contest of whose jutsu is the most destructive. No, the secretive stuff is part of our lives. Though, I'd agree that just blowing everything apart would be an easier solution at times. At the same time, we can't expect people to just change after a single conversation. That would be utterly unrealistic, Naruto shrugged. He walked over to the other side of the hall, and took out his bow staff. How about a spar? I haven't trained bojutsu since before the Ji-san fixed my seal. Yeah, though, I have a question on differentiating elemental types of chakra for the chakra conductors within barrier seal too, but we can deal with that afterwards. And I wouldn't mind venting some frustration. Her predatory smile made Naruto pause for a second. Damn, everyone treats me like a punching bag these days. His shoulders slumped down due to a mostly faked depression. We're just trying to cheer you up, Tenten giggled. And your less depressing attitude as of late also invites it. Now, we can at least mess with you, without having your eyes glowing red. Then I suppose me getting bullied is an unwanted side effect of getting my seal fixed. Ah well, I guess it's better than having the Kyuubi panting on the back of your neck. Is what Jiraiya-sama said really true? That Sandaime-sama reinforced your seal before he died. Well, you heard Hokage's speech, right? What he said might not be fully complete, but it was correct nonetheless, Naruto sighed. The Kyuubi is strong, so over the years my seal started to get some damage. The effort it took to stop Gaara, when he released the Ikibi in the middle of Konoha, only made things worse for me. The more of its chakra I used, the more my seal got damaged to the point where I was starting to lose control. Ji-san undid that damage, and made the seal stronger than it's ever been. But, won't the people be scared now? I mean, you once said that your status as a Jinchuriki was kept a secret. I asked for it, to make my burden public knowledge and to abolish the laws that prevented people from talking about it. Most of the adults knew about it anyway. And I told everyone that matters to me about it. So everyone who doesn't know at this time, well, I guess their ignorance would hurt me more in this case. If they want to hate me, they'd at least hate me for the right thing, Naruto shrugged. And with their god I'm making the last will of the Sandaime public right after the funeral, perhaps they'll see the point in the old man's sacrifice. Aside from saving my ass, of course, he sighed. Guy-sensei said it was the noblest thing he ever heard of. Well, not literally, but with all the youthfulness, Stuff removed, that's what he meant. Perhaps. I mean, it's obvious that I'm eternally grateful for what he did for me. But I can't help but feel sorry for Konohamaru, Naruto admitted. If not for me, his grandfather could have lived for another few weeks. But due to my failure to contain the Kyuubi. Hey, Jiraiya-sama said that it wasn't your fault, it was that of the seal. And who wouldn't understand that? Even the power of the freaking Yondaime has its limits when it comes to a monster like the Kyuubi, right? I guess you're right. Thanks, Tenten, he smiled, although not very convincingly. But what was that about the seal not being finished? What happened that night, when I was born? How could the seal have been incomplete from the very beginning? If that had not been the case, the Kyuubi would not have been able to slowly corrode the seal. But considering how neither Ero Sennin nor Bachan knew what the old man's mysterious last words meant, we could not figure out why the seal had been incomplete. Although, Ero Sennin did mumble something about old suspicions that someone had manipulated the Kyuubi that night. But those suspicions died along with the Uchiha clan. Weird, if you consider it. If they were all wiped out in one night, as the stories said, then there had not been any Uchiha among them who was strong enough to manipulate the Kyuubi either. Unless it had been the one who killed the Uchiha, himself. But it couldn't have been Itachi, he was too young at that time. Yeah, come on, Tenten urged him, oblivious to his musing. I'm going to smack some sense into you. I can't allow myself to let you go full emo, she huffed. However, she felt a little annoyed that she felt a blush creep on her face. Who wouldn't go full emo if they experienced being killed dozens of times a day? Naruto laughed sheepishly. Enko took all your clones out. He pinched the bridge of his nose. Every single one. With a freaking fireball, because she ran out of kunai. She really is crazy, isn't she? Only when she's not sleeping, or when she's at the dango booth, Naruto considered. But in all other cases, yes. It's not that she isn't giving her enough reasons to go mad. I think the lack of alcohol is what really drives Enko mad. You are distracted, the bird flattered down, and looked Hinata in her eyes. Sorry, Hinata squeaked. So, who is the boy who is lucky enough to deserve your affections? That wasn't. I thought I told you not to attempt to lie to me, Suzaku chided her. It wasn't that the being was strict about it, but Hinata heard enough to know that she had to speak her mind. I apologize, I was merely worried about a friend. You want him to be more than your friend, don't you? The kind voice sounded more amused than Hinata had ever heard before. You don't need to say it. I can see it clearly, dear. Hinata bowed her head in defeat. Naruto-kun lost someone important to him. Again. I am a bit worried about him. Death is a natural part of life, something we must all face. I know, but why do some people have to suffer so much more than others? Do you want to delude yourself with ideas of equality? Nature does not bother itself with the opinions of mankind, dear. Notions such as fairness are merely human inventions, but the world does not change its shape in order to fit the perception humanity has of it. No, human perception must follow the world. If you want to learn, you must be willing to abandon your ideas. You must be prepared to question yourself, in any possible way, including the habit you have of underestimating yourself, child. The bird rustled its vermilion feathers, and hopped on the branch of a nearby tree. Hinata and Suzaku were within the confines of the Uzumaki compound, as Hitomi had deemed it best not to start any training exercises in the vicinity of the Hyuga clan, due to the risk of being discovered. When Hinata had explained this reasoning to Suzaku herself, the bird had merely been amused, stating that she wouldn't be spotted if she didn't want to be. In fact, that very subject was the focus of today's training, chakra control, with the aim of becoming undetectable. You should try to focus yourself again, child, and continue. Yes, Suzaku-sama. The bird watched as the young heiress closed her eyes and did as she was asked. Good. Hitomi-chan truly is correct that Hinata-chan has more potential than she had. Hinata's chakra reserves are certainly far greater than hers at this age, though still completely insufficient to summon my real body. Until then, I shall just use this body as a substitute. Humans may mistake me for the ruler of all birds, but that doesn't mean other birds won't bow to my will. But, With a little of my chakra merging with this servant, I can see through its eyes and convey my voice, even to those who lack the power to summon me completely. With the will this child has, she might be capable of doing it in a few years. She looked, well, her minion did, at the young girl, and realized that she also had to correct a lot of her fighting style. The art of Juken had really deteriorated over the last century. Those fools focusing on power while their style is named Gentle Fist. And they wondered why I refused to be summoned all this time. Suzaku sighed, mentally at least, and considered that the girl didn't even perform so badly given the circumstances. Her natural affinity for water at least came with the usual tendency of flexibility. She shuddered at the thought of how much she would have had to re-educate the girl, had she been born with an affinity for earth. We'll wait here. Rado, you just go to the pervert and hand him your reports. Although with all the secrecy, I wonder if you're asking permission to marry Anko-chan, Naruto smirked. Is that a file with nude pictures of her? Poof. Rado turned crimson instantly. What? I would never. I fell right into that one, didn't I? The scar-faced Tokubetsu Jonin sighed as he realized he had been had. Completely. Karen laughed, after slurping down the last of her ramen. Ah, you're really right, Ni-san. This is the best ramen ever. Dear Kami, with 2 Uzumaki as customers, we're going to have to hire more help. Ayame looked at her father. Hey, don't think that I'm a pig like my brother. Nei-chan, you just ate 5 bowls. I trained the entire day. Karen pushed her glasses back, trying to hide her embarrassment. It's not like I always eat this much. And it's their fault for making this stuff so good. She pointed at the laughing Ayame. Told ya, ramen is the food of the gods. And old man Ichiraku makes the best ramen in the world. Naruto put his bowl down. 2 more miso please. Already working on it, Chuki smiled. Don't worry, Ayame, I'm sure Ako-chan won't let them come here every day, so it's not like we're being overrun. Right. I sure hope so. I'm not going to last long if I'm going to have to make this much ramen every day, Ayame sighed. Oh, more customers. She walked towards the new entrance. Welcome to Ichiraku's. Do you need some time to decide or are you ready to order? Well, I'll be back in 10 minutes, Rado turned to Naruto. You two should be fine here. It seems highly unlikely that someone would attack you on a street this busy. We'll manage, don't worry, Naruto waved him off. Turning to his Nei-chan, seriously, he should relax a bit. Anko certainly has a point on that, hasn't she? He mumbled, looking at the vanishing figure of their guard. Yup, Karen agreed. Though I doubt Rado-san is ever going to accept that. Stubborn as mules, both of them, Naruto chuckled. Imagine if the 2 of them got married. Anko and Rado. Karen dropped her chopstick in surprise. Never. They'd kill each other before that, she laughed. See, Kakashi-sensei was right, a stoic voice sounded up from behind Naruto. Why you ax? Because, Naruto-san is well known to spend a lot of time at this specific ramen stand. We know that, Sasuke grumbled. Hello, Naruto-san. Yo, what's up Shino? Why would Kakashi send you after me? Don't tell me you guys want to kill me again. Naruto chuckled, though it could by no means be seen as a gesture of amusement. Naruto's cheerful attitude while eating ramen had disappeared the moment Sasuke showed up, something which definitely did not get past Sasuke. Then again, the last time they met had been less than friendly. Sasuke did not have fond memories of the corrosive chakra that Naruto had emitted that day. We are here to apologize, Shino remained patient despite Naruto's jab. For none of us were aware of your burden, nor the sacrifice you had to make for our village. You already suspected that I was a Jinchuriki, even though I did not confirm it, Naruto shrugged. Besides, you never attacked me for it, so there's nothing you have to apologize for. If anything, I would have to apologize for not telling you sooner. And if you take into account what I did at the Wave mission, I suppose I can understand Sakura's response too, even though it was rather disappointing. Sakura flinched, but looked defiant nonetheless. How was I supposed to know what you are? I just saw you change and slaughter. Yeah, you weren't prepared to see a shinobi doing a shinobi's job, I know. Naruto still found that he cared little. He could hardly imagine that he once had hopes for this girl. Especially if she refers to me as a what instead of who. That doesn't get her any points on sympathy. Why didn't you tell us? Sakura was a little ticked off by Naruto's nonchalance. If you had told us, we might have. You might have what? How would anyone respond when being told that the person in front of them contains the demon that destroyed half the village a decade ago? No, I just wanted to be treated as a normal person. Instead, I have felt your disgust and fear ever since you saw me defend those villagers. You and normal, Sasuke scoffed. As hard as it may be for you to understand it, being considered normal was all I ever wanted. Naruto glared at him. He could sense the intent radiating from the Uchiha. Even without the Kyuubi's influence, this was fairly obvious. I'm here to eat some ramen, not to get into another stupid fight. Besides, you have destroyed your reputation in Konoha enough by now, didn't you? Though I bet what little goodwill you had was just enough to evade a more serious admonishment, but even that idiotic council will get fed up with your attitude someday. Sasuke isn't here to fight, Shino interrupted. He turned to face the Uchiha, but the latter remained silent. He is here to offer his apologies for the unwarranted attack on you at the Uchiha compound. Well, at this point Naruto could do nothing but laugh. Sasuke's frown only got deeper. I can see how sorry he is, Naruto chuckled, catching his breath after the laughter. Such a heartfelt confession. I am so moved. I suppose Kakashi sent you here for that. It's just as convincing as could be expected of the infamous copy ninja. Geez, the bastard's not even interested enough in this to bother coming here himself. I guess he couldn't just copy another sensei. Why do you dislike Ni-san so much? Karen wondered, frowning when she saw Sasuke's grimace. Ni-san. Sakura frowned. Since when do you have family, Naruto? Despite that his face was mostly hidden, Shino still visibly cringed. This was not the sort of question, especially with that discourteous tone, to ask an orphan. You don't sound like a fan of Ni-san either. Look, I'm not really his sister, I know that, but we're both Uzumaki. Karen wondered what the Pinket's problem was. But who cares? I don't. Karen Nichan is the first Uzumaki I've found. As far as I'm concerned, she is my sister. Now, can I focus on my ramen now? Naruto couldn't bother to even try to hide his annoyance. Do you want a bowl though, Shino? There is something I want to talk to you about. Why do you hate Sasuke-kun so much? Sakura blurted out. Excuse me, I'm not the one who began attacking the other. Naruto's tone became rather icy. Open your eyes for once, instead of always blindly siding with Sasuke. Try to understand the people around you, or else your blindness will keep chasing others away. Although I must say that it is rather ironic that you act this way, considering that you know very well what it is like to not be acknowledged. Shino put a hand on Sakura's shoulder, before she could get the infuriated reply out of her mouth. I am sorry, Naruto-san, he apologized once more. It seems it was a mistake for us to come here. Why? Because Sakura is still grieving from her losses, while Sasuke is still too angry. I find your lack of composure disappointing as well. I had no intentions of insulting you, Shino, but you are all forgetting who I am. Did you really think you hid your intentions well enough? I can feel Sakura's fear as clearly as ever, and Sasuke, well, I think it doesn't take my particular sensory talent to notice his anger towards me, Naruto scoffed. I thought you would have realized by now how dangerous it is if a person can't control his seal well enough. Are you really thinking Orochimaru gave you that thing without any ulterior motives? His influence will be as bad as the Kyuubi's was on me. That was the last thing Sasuke wanted to hear. All of the interior doubts within the young Uchiha flooded his mind, so he left before his anger got the better of him. With Sasuke stomping away, Sakura followed, leaving a frowning Shino. While I can understand your grudge against Sasuke, I find your behavior towards Sakura highly illogical. And why would that be? Naruto answered, more conversationally. Sakura is currently lost and confused, and under a great amount of stress. Why? You may ask. Because her mother died during the invasion, Shino stated. After which her father lost himself to the intoxicating effects of alcohol, and perished due to an accident. So that was why she was so tense. Karen realized. Shino nodded. Sakura has a lot of trouble dealing with her losses. I did not know that. It seems that, even without the Kyuubi constantly agitating me, I still act like a jerk, Naruto sighed. Ah well, I will apologize for that on a later date. Even if she doesn't want to hear it, I owe her that much. But as for Sasuke, I must warn you to be careful, Naruto warned the Aburame. The effectiveness of the method I used to seal the mark that Orochimaru left on Sasuke depends on Sasuke's willpower. The fact that that cursed thing influences him so much would suggest that Sasuke allows it to happen, that he seeks to use that power. After a pause, Shino conceded, his obsession with power seems to have increased, lately. Hatred seems to control his judgment, rather than logic. I guess I'm the last person to judge someone on that, Naruto grimaced. But if I were you, I'd take this matter to Kakashi. And if he doesn't act, take it up to the Hokage. Sensei tried to reason with Sasuke several times now, Shino admitted. He didn't like to talk about others, especially not his teammates, behind their backs, but this was a matter that concerned him as well. In addition, he acknowledged Naruto's skill at Fuinjutsu, not to mention that he began to realize that Naruto spoke from personal experience. You can use your Kikaichu to analyze a person's chakra, can't you? There is a strand of Kikaichu capable of such a thing, why? Keep a close eye on Sasuke. If he really is tapping into that seal, the composition of his chakra should fluctuate whenever he's training or in combat. Or possibly, and it is the most troublesome option, the seal is affecting his mood. You're closer to him than we are. While I can sense the malice from that thing, I cannot say if it is affecting him, though I suspect it is doing so. The Sasuke I knew was someone who I looked up to for the way he coped with his losses. Despite everything, he remained strong. I wonder if my judgment about him was wrong, or if the seal increases his aggression. Shino thought about it and nodded. While spying on my teammates in such a fashion is not satisfactory, I must admit that this is the most logical way to analyze the situation. Thanks for your suggestion, Naruto-san. I shall take my leave now. Why? Because the ramen you ordered before we arrived is starting to get cold. No, not my ramen. Naruto despaired, crying fake tears. Completely serious on one moment, and then so childlike the next. You really are a strange person, Ni-san, Karen giggled due to her brother's antics. You really changed a lot, thank Kami for that. Looking up from his already half-finished bowl, Naruto smiled. We hubi mawad mwe lake wat, he said with a mouth filled with ramen. Sorry. He gulped. The Kyuubi made me like that. Seriously, when you sense that much hatred, while also constantly feeling angry yourself, the paranoia is a bit similar to the insomnia that Gaara had to suffer. I just expected enemies at every corner, that is why I made barriers and traps everywhere. But wouldn't the seal that holds the Kyuubi prevent? Naruto looked around, checking if anyone was nearby or not, and then whispered, something was wrong with the seal. Something interrupted the Yondaime when he sealed the Kyuubi within me. But as long as the fox isn't willing to tell me, I guess I'll never figure out what happened the night I was born, Naruto confided to her. I suppose that is why I still feel sympathy for Sasuke, despite everything he did. He may be the biggest tem that walks the earth, but I can relate to his pain. And unfortunately, I can even relate to his anger. Is that why you warned Shino-san? Yup. Because if I am right, the source of Sasuke's anger will make his actions even more relatable to someone like me. You know, that cursed seal in his neck, I think that it drives him to be even angrier than he already was. I wonder what Sakura-san and Ino-san see in him, Karen mumbled to herself. He looked up, his mouth already filled with ramen again. Nothing. Ni-san, just finish your ramen, okay. Before Ayame-san thinks that you don't like their ramen anymore. Stomping away from the ramen stand, Sasuke picked up the speed and jumped across the rooftops of Konoha. Soon, Sakura had lost him. While he thought she wasn't as annoying as usual lately, he had little interest in talking right now. Damn that Dobi. Kakashi putting me up to this was bad enough, but to be brushed off like that, Sasuke felt frustrated. He felt he should have been stronger by now, and the dreams were only getting worse. Seeing his family, his clan, slaughtered. Seeing the ones he loved, bathed in blood, those memories were a continuous source of pain. But it seemed like the memories hurt him worse than ever, at the same time as the frustration with his own lack of progress grew. I should have been much stronger. Itachi was way stronger at my age. And even though the Dobi has a demon sealed within him, he and Gaara are still way above me. Hell, even scum like that Inuzuka, and that ice brat, managed to make me go all out. Kakashi is holding me back. Jumping from the last rooftop, he noticed how Itachi's old cat was staring at him. Shoo. Go annoy someone else, Sasuke snapped at the poor creature. Suto merely kept looking at the Uchiha, and Sasuke walked past the cat and entered his home. I've got no other choice. If I want to get stronger, if I want to make Itachi pay for what he did, I need to accept Orochimaru's offer. This seal is the only way out. Kakashi, Shino, and Sakura, even the Dobi himself, they don't matter. They don't make me stronger, he grumbled to himself. Me being stuck on pointless missions. I'll only grow weaker if I stay here. In a bout of frustration, Sasuke kicked the couch again. And how can I allow myself to even care about anyone, while I haven't even avenged my family? Seeing him speed away, as he jumped over the rooftops, Sakura sighed. Sasuke-kun isn't interested in talking anyway, so I might as well just leave him be. Of course, going home would be no better. That place only brought up memories now, and memories hurt, so, she decided to just wander through the village for a while, aimlessly. Just like me. I have no purpose. I don't aim for anything at all, she admitted to herself. Even Sasuke-kun, why is he so cold to me? In hindsight, she regretted leaving Shino behind like that. Although he was somewhat awkward when it came to social interactions, he had been there for her when everyone else seemed to abandon her. Since the loss of her parents, aside from Ino, whom she now saw less regularly due to her moving in with her parents again, Shino had been the only person with whom she could talk about her pain, in the few moments Sakura was able to talk about it. Most of the time, she felt like she would either cry her eyes out, or break everything into tiny pieces. Despair and anger were the things she felt most of all. Who could blame her? I just lost everything, and Kakashi-sensei doesn't even cut me any slack. Endure. As if I am some kind of emotionless Anbu, she scoffed, kicking a pebble away. Now, I feel so empty now. What have I been doing up to this point? Why did I even want to be a shinobi? Why didn't I realize sooner how great my life was? People like Sasuke-kun, they were always alone, and there I was, complaining about how nosy my parents are. She sniffed. Perhaps Naruto was right. I never took the effort to try and understand others. My pain. If this is what Sasuke has felt like for all these years, I can understand why he grew so distant. The Pinkett scowled and looked up at the cloudy skies. Am I really blinded? But he still said that I wouldn't understand his pain. That his pain is greater than mine. How can he be like that? Sakura thought sadly. Her inner personality started to stir a little. That voice had been mostly quiet since the day her mother died, but now it felt bitter. Only now are you starting to question whether the image you have of him is right. What do you? Sasuke-kun isn't as strong as you thought he was. Look at Naruto. He too has suffered. He too has lived alone. And if what Ino said is true, he also knows what loss is, better than most others. And let's not forget that he had a demon crammed in him the day he was born. But, you were the one who acts if you were blinded, the inner voice replied sarcastically. And it is not just Naruto. Lee-kun told you his story. How he lost his only family. And unlike us, Lee had no talent either. But he endured. That is what sensei meant. He doesn't want you to forget. He never said such a thing. But am I the only one of the two of us who actually thinks? You just jumped to a conclusion, got mad, and ran off. Shino helped you. Lee helped you. Ino helped you. But all you can see is Sasuke ignoring you. If what he does to you hurts you, then perhaps you can begin to realize that what you do also hurts the people who try to get close to you. Sakura had no answers. Her inner voice scoffed, and silence returned. Downtrodden, Sakura wondered why she had fallen in love with Sasuke all those years ago. What was it that had driven her to even chase Ino away? With the stinging pain that had numbed her heart, Sakura suddenly recalled her father's words. Our family has always been rather expressive when it comes to our emotions. Some may think it is a weakness, but do not be fooled. Those who are blind to their own emotions are the true weaklings. Sakura smiled a little at the thought, for the first time in days. Her pain, her grief, she had been foolish to want to run from it, to cast it away. It was part of her. If she wanted to renounce part of herself, if only it did not hurt so terribly much. Hey, forehead. A rather noisy blonde interrupted her thoughts. I've been looking all over for you, come along. Pig, but, no, buts. You're coming with me, and that's it. We're having dinner at my place tonight. I know things haven't been perfect between us, but I would never call myself your friend if I didn't even try to help you through this. Ino grabbed the pink-haired girl's wrist and dragged her along. Sakura could not decide whether it was her exhaustion or her indifference that led her to not struggle against the blonde. But, Hideo Dono, we need to act soon before things spiral out of control. He will be a danger, Hyuga Eiji argued. The elder Hyuga, and member of the clan's council, looked as concerned as he sounded. It was 2 days since Naruto met his former teammates of Team 7 at Ichiraku's. However, the other Hyuga elder had called for Eiji for other reasons. The Kyuubi brat is no longer on our grounds. He moved to what is rumored to be his own clan's grounds, although, I have never heard of such a place. Then again, real estate is more your specialization, Hyuga Hideo sighed wearily. The father of the current clan leader started to grow tired of his talkative and tense fellow conspirator. Your daughter-in-law is becoming the problem, not that brat. Although I must say that having that brat on our grounds gave us a lot of political leverage. No one wants to offend that boy too much, considering what he represents, what he will represent. Yet still the boy has been a thorn in our side. Hajime's death is only an example of how dangerous that brat is. You think I do not know that? Eiji growled. But that woman. The way she looked at me. And you too, she suspects something. Hideo grimaced. I am aware of that. Though, I am more concerned about the fact that she began training her eldest daughter. The irritating aspect of that training is that no one can figure out what she is trained in. Even my son does not seem to know the specifics. As if he cares about that failure. He's the one who argued that Hanabi should be named heir. If Hitomi had not opposed that idea. As long as she is officially the heir, my eldest granddaughter is a threat, Hideo sighed. And while my son is still convinced that she is emotionally too weak to carry any responsibilities, I am sure you can see the small changes in her behavior just as well as I could. He might come to the conclusion that her growth shows enough promise. She is his firstborn, after all. I will not presume my sight is as good as yours, Eiji humbly responded. But the girl clearly grew during the Chunin exams. Hideo frowned. Stupid old man. It is not the exams that worry me. It is that secretive training Hitomi is giving her. After all, if that girl gains the same degree of insight as her mother, she would become a serious nuisance. She would become difficult to control, unlike her younger sister. After all, Hanabi is exactly like Hiashi. Had tradition not decreed that I had to step down in favor of Hiashi when his fighting ability surpassed mine, I would still have been in complete control regarding this matter. But at least Hiashi is easy to handle. But Hitomi, I never found out why her insight is so much better than any other clan member in the clan's recorded history. Even my own insight is inferior, he begrudgingly admitted to himself. Allowing that girl to marry Hiashi is probably one of my biggest mistakes. We need to act soon, Hideo agreed. Will he still cooperate? After your son sided with the current Godime during the vote. That was a different matter. We cannot allow cowards to rule the village. No, my son was correct in his decision. But regardless of that matter, he will still want our support. And I hold all the cards he needs. I hold more influence over the clan than I ever did when I was the actual head. And he knows better than anyone that the Hyuga are the strongest of the leaf, Hideo boasted. Yet what value would that hold for the roots of the tree that carries those leaves? We must be careful with that man. He can never be trusted. Tamari smiled when she walked towards the open space where once a building had been. On top of the mountain ridge, above the Uzumaki living quarters and the mask storage temple, her little brother and his fellow Jinchuriki were having a rather vicious taijutsu spar. Tamari knew there had been buildings up here too, prior to the Kyuubi's attack on Konoha. She could even see a few remains. But this open place still fell within the bounds of the barrier that surrounded the Uzumaki compound, so it was the perfect training ground for them. I've never seen Gaara act like that, to anyone, Temari realized. She saw the two boys circling around each other, lashing out with fists, palms, or feet. But as fierce as the spar was, it was still done with a wide smile. Well, in Naruto's case at least. But even from a distance, Temari could see that her little brother was having fun too. What brought you up here, Blondie? Temari was startled when the snake mistress spoke up from behind her. When are you ever going to stop sneaking up on me? When are you not going to react like a startled hamster? Scowling, Temari turned around and glared at the older Kunoichi. I told you before that Kamatari is a weasel, not a hamster. Who cares? Anko grinned wickedly. Weasels, hamsters, cats, mice, they're all just food for my pretty snakes. After her eyes were drawn towards the slapping sound she heard, Temari saw Rado with a hand in front of his head. The reddish imprint of his hand was still seen on his forehead. Don't mind her, Temari-san. Anko is just an idiot, Rado sighed. He continued, ignoring Anko's indignant response. What brings you up here? Naruto's clones ran out. You smacked his clones. Anko guessed. No. They just ran out of chakra, the blonde shrugged. It is to be expected. Both Gaara and Naruto indicated that they had far less chakra at their disposal after their seals were fixed. Rado put up his hand before the girl could react. Despite their smaller chakra reserves, their control has increased drastically. If anything, I would say that they are both better shinobi due to this. But control is still something they both need to learn a lot about. At least Dusty figured out how to stop his sand from automatically trying to defend him all of the time. It only works for Naruto though, Rado sighed. Your snakes have never gotten through. Yeah, bummer. At some distance from the trio, Gaara looked at his sister for a second. Hey, don't get distracted now, Naruto scolded him while landing a rather vicious blow at the back of the red-haired boy's head. Well, the boy's hair used to be auburn-colored, but after an earlier hit that created a rather large gash on top of Gaara's head, it now was truly red. Of course, they were Jinchuriki, so healing was not really an issue for them, thus neither of them was really bothered. Why is my sister up here? My clones ran out, Naruto shrugged. I have access to less chakra after the Kyuubi's influence was kicked out of the window. Ah well, I'm still adjusting. Humans are strange. Gaara sounded almost subdued as he looked at his sister, who for some reason had gotten into a rather heated discussion with Anko. Even with his acute senses, Naruto only could pick up something about weasels and snakes. They call us monster, yet they are capable of being far more inhuman than we could ever be. And still, where there is evil in them, there is also good. Without your sister, I could not have changed you, Naruto smiled. She feared you, perhaps even hated what you became. And still she loved who you are, irrespective of the Ikibi. She gave me a reason to exist, Gaara agreed, still wearing the same faint smile. Naruto couldn't do anything but agree with that. Friends and family gave him his reasons to exist as well the reasons to endure everything thrown at him. And above all, Hinata, I still do not understand you. And I am sure that I must be mistaken. How could someone like you like someone like me? Perhaps, it will take time, but I will do everything within my power, so that I will not become a danger again. Jisen gave me extra time, so I have to go all out. I will become strong enough to keep that bastard fox sealed within me. Are you ready for another round? Gaara frowned when he saw Naruto's determined grimace when the blonde spoke. But with one glance at Temari, Gaara understood his determination. He too would go to any length to protect the people precious to him. And he would give no quarter to those who tried to harm his precious people. Their blood would be a proper offering to his sand. Rado sighed as the two Kunoichi continued to bicker, but he felt relief as he saw the two Jinchuriki resume their spar. Gaara lacked experience, but he was taught all the forms of his taijutsu style. Meanwhile, Naruto's style was a bastardized version of the Juken. Rado had no doubts that Naruto usually used his fiery claws in conjunction with this style. But with some pointers, Rado had managed to improve Naruto's style by leaps and bounds. His stances, attack patterns, and defense had all improved. However, it was still as chaotic as ever, as the boy seemed to insist on being imaginative in every move he made. It was not that Rado was bothered. He agreed with the notion that the blonde would not be a taijutsu type. His humongous chakra reserves would make him an overwhelmingly powerful ninjutsu specialist, if, and only if, he could get better control over his chakra. Then again, Minato-sama combined ninjutsu and taijutsu together. Naruto's stamina would probably make him even better, although he is still lagging behind when it comes to his father's agility. Rado scratched his chin. Or his mother's strength. Yes, if the boy would get a better grip on the Raiden elemental jutsus, he would likely be able to integrate the Hiraishin into his style. Unless he continues to stubbornly refuse learning his father's jutsu. Why did he have to inherit that trait from his mother? D ranks. I hate D ranks. What was that idiot of a new Hokage thinking when he sends our team to plow the fields for some sickly farmer? We are way better than that. And if it wasn't bad enough, Kakashi takes Shino and Sakura apart for training, leaving me to do all the work again. Sasuke kept his frustration inside when his team walked back to the village. He knew very well that Kakashi would not like it if Sasuke voiced his frustrations. It would just end up with another boring speech. While technically still a D-rank mission, it actually took them outside of the village. But considering how it was well within the safety zone, not that any of them really cared. Kakashi just took these missions as an opportunity to train his students, while he let Sasuke do the work. It was Sasuke's punishment, after all. In fact, if it hadn't been for the council's decision, Kakashi would have thrown Sasuke out of the team. The Jonin kept a calm demeanor, but he was getting very tired of Sasuke's angry behavior. This was not the type of personality fit for the job. And while Jiraiya, just like Hiruzen, agreed with that, the majority chose to believe in Sasuke's bloodline instead of acknowledging the actual problems which Sasuke had. Meanwhile, Shino had become even more silent than usual. Kakashi had seen that one of Shino's Kikaichu had returned to him, and after that the young Aburame had seemed rather downcast. The only thing he had said was, "I need to speak to you, sensei, after we have reported to Hokage-sama," and that was it. While laid back, Kakashi became curious about what could spook the usually unflappable genin to this degree. Looking back at the brooding Uchiha who was moving at some distance behind the rest of the team, Kakashi once again had this ominous feeling that Shino's request was all about Sasuke. Again. There were so many distractions these days, he wasn't really looking forward to Shino adding another one to the constantly growing pile of headaches. Equally distracted, Aburame Shino was still mulling over what he should tell his sensei and the Hokage. The evidence the Kikaichu brought him was irrefutable. Sasuke was deliberately tapping into the cursed seal Orochimaru left on him. Apparently it was affecting his mood, too. There is no way that Sasuke-san can be unaware of the price that he would have to pay for such power, he mumbled softly against the back of the collar that covered his mouth. But apparently he decided it was worth that price. Why? Shino fell silent. It disturbed him that his teammate would deliberately choose to do such a thing. Shino could find no logical explanation, other than the boy's desire for power. But what could be so important about strength that you would throw away everything you are? Kakashi didn't notice the boy mumble, or at least he didn't show it. Sakura was too lost in thought to notice, just running alongside them, but actually thinking more about what she should do. She had still not visited the cemetery since her father was buried, and she had no idea if she could muster the courage to go there, and part of her refused to ask Ino to join her. No, if she went, she wanted to be alone with her parents' graves, but she wasn't entirely sure if she could take it. Part of her wanted to go there, while another part wanted nothing but to run away from that very place. It tore her apart. Sasuke did not hear the Aburame's mumblings either. Even if he hadn't been lagging behind the others, he would have been too distracted. He has such a thunderous power. I'm completely inferior. All this time at the academy, all those weird fluctuations in his strength and skill, he was always hiding. Why didn't anyone say he was hiding the Kyuubi, of all things? Involuntarily, Sasuke shuddered. And the feeling of fear that I had at that time, even Orochimaru's killing intent was a joke in comparison. Not for the first time, Sasuke wondered if his decision to go with the Snake Sanin's minions the next time he'd see them was the right one. Orochimaru is strong, but Naruto, that maelstrom of power, What kind of body does he even have that he can hold such a power? How can I grow that sort of power? He looked in front of him. Yes, his decision was the right one. Kakashi had made it clear that he would not teach Sasuke anymore, not until Sasuke changed. But the boy felt that he did not have the time to wait for such nonsense. In the end, his rivalry with Naruto only made Sasuke desire more power for himself. But there was nothing for him in this village of idiots. Not even the strange sense of amity he had with Sakura and Shino was enough of a reason for the young Uchiha to want to stay. It was weird, but in a way it felt a bit like having a family when he was around those two, Sasuke admitted. But how can I even bring myself to care about anyone, when my real family can't rest until I avenge their deaths? Sasuke grimaced. Subconsciously, the anger he felt when thinking about his older brother made Sasuke activate his Sharingan, and that was when he saw it. Dozens of Senbon flew at his team members, perfectly aimed so they just fell within Kakashi's blind spot. Sure, that would never have worked on a normal day, but with the Jonin being distracted, while also simultaneously under the false belief that no one would attack them so close to the village. Sasuke's yell made Kakashi and Shino move, just in time. But Sakura got several of the needles in her side. Crying out in pain, the Pinkett fell to the ground, seemingly rendered unconscious. Or worse, but Sasuke didn't want to think that way. He kept himself blind to that option. He had seen too many people he cared for die, he refused to see another one. It must be poison Senbon, it must be, Sasuke mumbled. His Sharingan flashed around, searching for their assailants. Much to his shock, he found one of their attackers standing beside him. Why did you fucking warn them, you clueless fucktard, the red-haired girl snapped at him. Calm down, Hyuga, a six-armed teen startled Sasuke even more, standing on his other side. You just focus on taking that bug guy down, okay? Tisk, whatever. Sakin, Ukin, and the fat ass are stalling the Jonin, Kidomaru remembered her. So get your skinny ass moving and take that other piece of trash down, because our guys will need your help. You know that Kakashi is no joke, right? I fucking agreed to the plan, didn't I? Hyuga huffed. In front of them, in a blur of movement, three red-skinned demon-like assailants, one of near-giant size, suddenly erupted from the ground, ambushing Kakashi with such speed that the Jonin barely even had the time to unveil his Sharingan. What are you doing? Sasuke demanded. Orders, Kidomaru shrugged. You were taking too long to decide voluntarily, and we couldn't stay in Konoha indefinitely, not when our ally failed to become your next Hokage. Freaking idiot, he scoffed. So what will it be? Will you struggle or will you submit? I already made my choice. Sasuke grit his teeth when he saw how the girl uncovered the first level of her cursed seal. Shino won't be able to face her, Sasuke realized. And with the others already having completely released the power of the seal, how long will Kakashi be able to withstand them? Call those morons back, Sasuke glared at the six-armed boy beside him. And then take me to Orochimaru. I don't give a damn about the consequences anymore, I only want power. Kidomaru only smirked back. As you command, he chuckled. Suddenly, he spit out some sticky substance. It was the same material as the Senbon earlier. Sasuke could see the chakra within it glow, as he watched with his Sharingan. Kidomaru formed it into a bow, while simultaneously releasing the first level of his cursed seal. As the black markings crawled over the boy's skin, he created a second object, an arrow. What? Sasuke wanted to ask what the other boy was planning to do, but while his eyes could follow, his body was still too slow. He saw how Kidomaru pulled back the arrow, aimed, and released. Sasuke felt as if his heart froze. All of a sudden it was as if time itself froze, and everything went in slow motion. His Sharingan projected where the arrow would go. Despite realizing the inevitable truth, he still started to move towards his teammate. But the arrow was too fast, or was he too slow? He could not say. He could not think. He did not want this, not his teammates. He would be the one to pay the price, not them. With a dull thud, the arrow landed in the back of Shino's head. Distracted by Hyuga, the boy had never seen the arrow coming. And the few insects that hovered behind him were too weak to even hinder the arrow. The sheer force behind the weapon made it pierce right through. Seeing that he was too late, Sasuke closed his eyes, trying to shut out what he just saw. But the sight of the Aburame with an arrow piercing through his head was already burned into his eyes. No. Sasuke turned, but Kitamura was already upon him. A dagger made out of the same web-like material as the bow and arrow was pressed against the Uchiha's throat. I thought you wanted power, and didn't give a damn about the consequences. A wicked grin was on Kitamaru's face. Did you really fool yourself, thinking that the consequences were only for you? You will need more determination if you even want to try and control the cursed seal that our master has bestowed upon you. But, not them. You chose power, didn't ya? You chose that over everything else. Even those pieces of trash, right? Numbed, Sasuke could only nod. He hated himself for it, but Kitamaru was right. This was his choice. He stopped resisting. This was the path of an avenger. It was a dark and forsaken path, he now fully began to realize, but he would have to endure it. I should have cut my ties sooner. This is my fault entirely. If I hadn't hesitated this long, they would not have to suffer the consequences. But this is the only option I have. I'm sorry, Sakura. I'm sorry, Shino. Kakashi. I have to do this. I have to kill Itachi. I must. Even if everyone hates me, even if I am branded a traitor, I must avenge my family. Kitamaru chuckled when he saw the look in his eyes. I see you have accepted the inevitable. Follow me. Past the corpse of Aburame Shino, Hyuga moved silent as a predator, sneaking up on their last and by far most capable adversary, Hitaki Kakashi. She felt annoyed that the Aburame had been able to push her into using the first level of her seal already. He was far more competent than they had anticipated. She hated bugs right now, with a passion. It was a good thing that Kitamaru's arrow had made short work of that. With the Aburame dead, the creepy insects had scattered as well. As she moved towards Kakashi, careful that he would not see her approach, she moved past the body of the pink-haired girl, who had been felled by Senbon earlier. Paralyzed by the poison Kitamaru had put on these Senbon, the girl was completely powerless and could only wait until someone would slit her throat. But now that Hyuga stood next to the defenseless girl, the red-haired Kunoichi started to feel some doubts. Fuck. It would be pointless to kill this useless fangirl, wouldn't it? It's not like she could do anything to hinder that snake's plan, Hyuga mused. Still, her orders were clear. Kill the entire team. I could just leave her be. The poison would last a few hours, long enough for us to haul ass, she pondered. Nobody would miss these weaklings anyway, so there won't be a search. But the orders were clear, I gotta kill this moron. And yet, watching the team for these last weeks had made Hyuga a bit sympathetic for the difficult position the girl was in. At least this idiot had parents who loved her. Rather than selling her to someone like Orochimaru-sama, she spit on the ground, feeling bitter about her own fate. The terrified green eyes looked up, staring into Hyuga's pissed-off dark brown eyes. Life or death, what do you want, Pinky? Hyuga scowled. Bonus. A trapped cat. Shizune kept glaring at the both of them. Anko just tried to avoid her eyes, while Tsunade at least had the decency to look ashamed. What were you two even thinking? The usually level-headed woman now hissed in anger. Don't worry about it, Shizune-ni-chan. Naruto couldn't hide his mirth. I wanted to fix the garden anyway. Though I do admit that a field with craters was not what I had in mind. Tsunade-sama was too drunk to punch straight, Anko muttered. I only started to squint when your snakes bit me, Tsunade retorted. Whatever Anko wanted to say in return was cut off by a very impatient Shizune. You two better behave from now on, or I will make sure you will. Anko's sake ban sure gave me a lot of good ideas. Anko looked at the angered medic stomping away. She's joking, right? I taught her too thoroughly for that threat to be idle, Tsunade muttered with a very, very pale face. Just be glad I managed to keep Ako-ni-chan out of this, Naruto burst out in laughter upon seeing the horrified looks. He had never laughed this much while in a hospital before. Sometime later, both Anko and Tsunade left the hospital. Their injuries healed, but their pride still hurting. The blonde looked at the bluish-black-haired woman. Anko had the same bloodthirsty expression as she did. That cat will pay. Oh yes, she will go through hell for pranking us, Anko's sadistic smile unnerved the Sannin. But she agreed. Making us look like fools, even causing the destruction of that high-quality sake. It was a bottle of the marked man label. Yes, she will definitely suffer for that. Groaning, the forgotten toad sage awoke in the middle of the forest. My head, the soon-to-be appointed Hokage groaned. What on earth happened? His ankle ached, and suddenly he remembered it. Damn you, Heim. I am not some kind of blunt weapon for you to smash around. Getting up, he decided to get back to the brothel. He needed some relaxation now. A short distance away, a flabbergasted Kiba watched as the great Jiraiya, his long white manes filled with twigs and leaves, now stumbled to get out of the Uzumaki compound. I don't know either boy, Kiba mumbled, after Akamaru whined questioningly. Let's just keep out of this. Akamaru nodded, and urged Kiba to follow him. The pup knew that Karen would have prepared something to eat by now, something much tastier than the supposedly healthy stuff which Hana gave him. At least the pup could brag to the triplets that he had some good tasting food every now and then. Seeing the eager pup straddle in front of him, tail waggling in anticipation, Kiba knew what was going to happen. We've got a mission later today, so don't eat too much, okay? The Inuzuka sighed. Are you sure this will work? Tsunade frowned. Of course it will. I've been living with them for quite a while now, and I know that Akko is the only one whom she listens to. That cat fears the Hyuga more than anyone, Akko snickered. Well, she respects Naruto as well, but she once said that that was different, though I don't know why. Just planting this in her room, it seems too simple, the Senju hesitated. That's why she won't expect it. Anko grinned. We plant the evidence here, and Akko will figure out soon enough. Tsunade remained a bit skeptical, but she assumed that it could work. Within the Uzumaki compound, only Chi was always busy pranking people, so naturally the suspicion would befall her. And if Akko found some evidence to support that suspicion. Too bad I'm a censor, Chi chuckled from the door opening. Anko turned around, looking at the feline with a shocked, oh crap, expression. Tsunade wanted to move toward the door, but Chi already closed it. Don't worry, two legs. I'm sure Akko-sama is happy to let you two out. Oh, and don't waste your time on trying to break free. Whisker Two-Leg made these seals and barriers especially for me, after Akko-sama ordered him to do so. And the threat of being deprived of ramen made him very, very thorough. Anko paled as she heard the mirth in the cat's voice. And we're not even at the window side. We are doomed. Oh, and should I add that Akko-sama went out shopping with the pig carrying Two-Leg? Now Tsunade paled. Never try to prank the queen of pranks. She laughed. That's it for this part. If you enjoyed it, then like, share and subscribe for the next video as it's going to be more interesting, and also check out my other playlists. Hope you would like them too.